Live. Check, check, 1, 2. How's everybody doing? I'm also live on Instagram. For those on there, if you want to hop on YouTube, that'd probably be a better view for you. I'm sorry that the camera perspective is a bit skewed. It's kind of hard to have all these things set up so that everybody can see on every platform. But if you want to hop over to youtube.com/ I think it's Pixologic, or is it ZBrush at Pixologic? Let's double check quick. I should know this, but sorry, it's funny. I didn't memorize everything. For those first joining, this is going to be a continuation of my work on a reimagining of Cupid rescuing Psyche. Actually, it was reviving Psyche, but I'm sort of taking it past that, and so this will be kind of the story of him rescuing her from Hades, as the original story goes. So yeah, for those on Instagram, if you go to ZBrush.com / ZBrush at Pixologic on YouTube, you can find this stream on there from a much better angle because it's screen recording it. Yeah, so with that out of the way, just getting a few things set up here. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to type it in the chat, and I will see it, and I'll be happy to get back to you with any questions you may have. Just arranging a few other things here. Sorry for the little bit of a delay. Happened to be a busy day. So how's everybody doing on lockdown? Is everybody ready for it to end? I know I am. I mean, it's like all of us who are artists can be somewhat introverted. I think that's just natural. But at the same time, we all have a limit where we want to socialize a bit more. And I just want to get out, you know? I'm going to hit the restaurants, hit the beach. I know I do. So yeah, it's frustrating. Hello. Vasquez. Yes, that's a Matrix poster. He's right. Yeah, it's funny. Every stream I always get somebody who's like, is that a Matrix poster? What the? Yeah, it's hilarious. And please let me know if my sound is good. It looks like it's peaking just right, but I readjusted my mic and rearranged a few things on my desk that it's all behind the scenes. You can't really see, but yeah. Just checking there. IG. Anyway, all right, guys. Yeah, let's just get back to it. So I was working a little bit on the hands here, very little, because I didn't have a lot of time in between last stream and now for this, but I think we got the grip looking good. Ish. That's all wonky. So I'm going to work a little bit on the hands here. I love hands. I love how they can convey so much emotion. They're so gestural. Sorry for the butt shot there. Just do this. And like that. Which is the right place to keep 3D printer in home to use it? Not where I have one of mine. I have one right here in my bedroom that I need to put in another room. Probably, I think it's best to keep. Well, it depends what kind of 3D printer you're using. That's the other question. You know, if you're using FDM, you don't want to be in an enclosed area with no ventilation, especially not where you live or eat a lot. It's better to be in an open air area, farther away from where you spend a lot of time breathing. For FDMs, because they found that there's like nanoparticles that emit out of the initial beginning phase of it when it first heats up and starts extruding plastic. So obviously you don't want that stuff going in your lungs. But I haven't used this printer in a while. It's sort of down for repair, and it's being taken apart right now. So I think I'm going to be moving that somewhere else. But I don't even use it anymore. All my Formlab stuff is in actually my like a corner of my living room. I have like a whole like 3D printing space there right now. But I don't have a roommate currently, and I'm debating if I will just turn that room that I have extra into an office and just and just treat it like that, and just put all my stuff in there, and separate kind of my living room workspace. Because right now it's just like a mad scientist. My apartment's like crazy. It's printers and entertainment and statues and TVs and it's just sculpture. It's just a mess. It's not a mess. It's actually pretty clean, but I mean, it's just there's a combination of all my interests. It's nothing that embarrassing at all. It's just not like a normal home, I guess, where you have like your living room separated from your workspace and your art is somewhere. I mean, it's all just together everywhere. People always come by and they're like, you know, their eyes just kind of widen as they take in everything. It's kind of hilarious, but it's my life. I don't know. So, but I think probably just to keep things a bit more separate, I might start putting everything in one room. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, I would put your 3D printer not where you spend most of your time. Depending on if it's a liquid form, it's like a Form Labs or something. I would say, you know, you're fine wherever you put it because that stuff is pretty contained. It's pretty well sealed. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. But if you're using FDM machines, yeah, I'd want to keep them away from your high traffic living area. Yeah, that guy's seen the yeah, this wrist over here is like, yeah, it's like so weird. It's like a combination of skin wrinkles and bone breakage. Yeah. So any guys who are like tech junkies or into Unreal, have you guys seen the new tech demo for the PS5, the Unreal Engine 5 tech demo? It's pretty awesome. I mean, granted, it's always like take those with a grain of salt because every tech demo is always one thing, and then you get the actual system running and all the other dynamics and, you know, characters and objects in there, and then it's always less. But or it always changes a bit before you can maximize the system's potential. But I don't know, man. It looks pretty awesome, and I've been working a bit with Unreal now, Unreal 4 engine 4.24. They just released 4.25, and it's pretty incredible what you can do now, and what their new releases are showing you can do with like planetary systems and atmosphere. I'm stoked. I'm working on some projects that are going to be realized in that. So, as an artist and as somebody who wants to make their own films, working in that medium right now is pretty much the coolest thing. Yeah, this guy's looking kind of chunky in here. Which one is better? Resin, PNE, or filament? Oh, resin. You meant resin. Resin's definitely... I mean, they have different applications. That's the other thing you have to realize. It's like a resin 3D printer is going to get much higher resolution, and you have... You know, they both have a lot of material options, but if I had to pick just one, I would go with a resin printer. But it's more expensive, so you've got to be willing to take that hit cost, you know, up front. You're going to be working with more expensive materials, and typically they can be more brittle, and they get more brittle over time, you know, so you want to mold and cast stuff like that. Excuse me. Or, you know, you look at FDM, they're more durable, it's cheaper, a lot cheaper, but the resolution quality is still not going to match that of an SLA machine. So resin, I think, wins out overall, but if budget's a big issue for you, you're going to want to take that into consideration. Inhale the plastic, embrace the cancer. Jeez. Yeah, it's funny until it actually is you. Yeah, I would keep your resin or your FDM machines away from where you spend a lot of time. Sculpts with no pre-processing is impressive. Even the tech needs to catch up for speed. Yeah. Mouse lock, agreed. web etching health-wise? Which one is better? Resin. Yeah, for sure. Again, you don't want to touch the resin that much. I mean, it happens, of course, little spills, and when it first comes out of the printer, it always has a little bit of a, goop on it, so to speak. Like, I would say like a thin coating. Yeah, I would say that still resin printers are overall the best for your health. All right, here. So I was a bad guy, and I didn't get the quadded version of this mesh of hers for this, but I think the adjustments I'm going to be making are so subtle, and the mesh is still higher enough res that even though it's triangulated and it's a big no-no, I think this will work for now, and I might still dabble in some other options with ZBrush, like Testimation maybe. We'll see. I think Testimation might be a good option for this, actually. So we'll see if I jump into that soon. What do we got question-wise? Resin will give you an allergy to alcohol. Kind of. I mean, it depends. It depends if you overexpose yourself to all that stuff, and you just, certain people never get an allergy to it. I haven't yet. And I know some people at Form Labs who've been there for a long time, and they don't have any, and they've handled tons of resin and alcohol. Isopropyl alcohol, of course. Also, there's people who worked there for a short time, and they got an allergy. So I think it's somewhat your predisposition genetically. I'm not sure how else to assess that. What else? Gonzalez, Jose, hola. How's it going? So what's everybody doing with their hair for this this time? I'm curious. I was lucky enough to have experimented enough with clippers and razors and shears and what all that stuff. Shears, what am I, a sheep? Yeah. With clippers and scissors and all that to be able to cut my own hair, so I kind of did this myself. It's good enough. I'm willing to go out in public like this, but Vasco's your bald. That's easy. That makes life a lot easier. I keep debating that if I just want to just bick it. If I haven't done that ever yet, but I might one of these days. I might just try it just for the hell of it. See what happens. I have friends who are like, "No, don't do that. You have nice hair." But I'm aging. It's getting a little thinner. Eventually, I don't know. I'm not sure how far it's going to go with me. It sort of seems like it's stalled. Like, I'm not thinning anymore, but it's still like, the shorter it is, the easier it is to manage. But eventually it just gets annoying when it gets longer. And so I just reached a breaking point where I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to cut it. And so I did. And so far, so good. No one's been like, "Oh my God, what'd you do to yourself?" So we'll see. Grow a beard, yeah. It's distinct from the hair. That's funny. Yeah. So I'm just trying to think of how that would go. Yeah. Most of all, it's about confidence. Yeah, totally. And that's the thing I've learned when I started getting some thinner hair. Was like, is your confidence just in that, or is it who you are, your personality, and everything else? Yeah. Plus, it's like hard to really control. There's not much you can do much about it. This wrist and this hand just looks awkward. I think it needs to be shortened in here. Just looks a little weird. Blur this a little bit more. I keep seeing like 1 or 2 people pop on Instagram. It's like, sorry guys, if you're on Instagram, just hop over to the YouTube channel for Pixologic. A lot better angle. Sorry, it's so skewed. I should probably just close that down because I don't think it's helping all that much. Okay. So what have you guys been doing to entertain yourselves during this lockdown? You guys watching a lot of shows or playing a lot of video games or hanging out a lot with people you live with or just saying screw it and going to visit your friends anyway? Because I think after a certain amount of time, if you guys aren't sick, I mean, it's like, I'm no doctor, but I'm also, you know, it's, I don't know, I think if you're around the same people and you're not showing symptoms, you're fine. Or if you get antibody tested, then you're good to go. Just stay around the same people that are healthy. But, we've got to get back to normal somehow, man. I think this is just this is too ridiculous. You know, the numbers are coming out more and more where it's looking like slightly above the average death rate of the flu. It's not like it's as bad as they were making it out to be for most people. Good afternoon, Vince Mon. Doom PD0, a bit of everything. Nice. Got work from home, bro. Nice, nice. Yeah, same here a little bit. America's completely screwed, Night Dream says. It seems like it's getting pretty screwed. Yeah. Just using ZBrush, get my models done, get my CG cartoons going. Nice. Good call. Excuse me. It's amazing all the subtleties of how the body moves too when you think about it. Like you think of bones and they're rigid, but then you have this cartilage and you have, you know, different amounts of just flexibility with around that. There's muscle and tissue, and so the way it deforms is always, you got to consider all that. It's not just like rigid bone, you know, changes over. Even when you, like, even how your hand can go flat in one way and then you can curve, and all the metacarpals can kind of curl around something too. It's fascinating when you think about the body. Even though I'm not a big sculpting human fan, personally, I guess because we just see it so much. But when it's an interesting scenario or character that I really like, then I can get interested in it. But often, sculpting people doesn't excite me very much. Hence why I do more creatures and animals and stuff I find fun. dinosaurs, of course. But yeah, the human figure is amazing. Just from a scientific standpoint. Yeah. What else we got saying in the chat? Are you going by the old dinosaur standard or the new ones with feathers? Haha. And then what else? Nitrogens. You were just using smooth, or what was that? Yeah, smooth, yeah. Shift, hold shift down. And then what does it say? From the scan data or model from scratch? In between. This wasn't scan data, but these were models that were already modeled as basic human forms by Nick Zuccarello. Nick Z. And you can find them on his, you can find them if you search ZBrush Central. You can find these models on there. Base human meshes, and then I've changed them up a bit. Rarely do people start sculpting a character from scratch. You often start with a maquette, or even like a digital maquette or a base mesh, something. You don't really want to start your topo from scratch because that's just sort of a waste of time. You can just take something that has good topology already and modify it. Especially when you just, if you want to do it from scratch, of course you can, but it's like no one's really going to care if you I modeled this from scratch, every single polygon, or every edge loop and placed everything there, or if you it's rare that you're actually hired to do that. They're going to say, start with this base mesh and then go, And personally, I'm not about wasting time, so I don't need to prove to anybody that I can model a human from scratch. Even though I could, I have no desire to, because it would just be such a long waste of time for me. So I start with some decent base mesh, human meshes, and then go from there. So this is holding shift to get the blue circle, and that's how you can relax something. And now if I'm holding control and I tap on the mask, that blurs the mask more and lets me soften that, so then I can make adjustments and movements, and it's more gentle. So Vasquez, you were asking about dinosaurs. I'm a bigger fan of, here's the other thing. I'm a science nerd, so there are certain dinosaurs that we have feather impressions from, and there's the smaller ones usually. The large ones, all we have, as far as I know, are skin impressions, which are very scaly, very rough, much like Jurassic Park's dinosaurs and others. We don't have any fossil evidence at all of Utah raptors or any larger theropods having feathers at all. I would actually be more inclined to think that maybe some dinosaurs like Edmontosaurus and others that are found in the Arctic, if it was even Arctic back then, because climates change obviously and ice age happens, but if it was cold in that region and they lived there, they would probably have been furry. They would have been like a furry, woolly mammoth or a woolly rhinoceros. So we probably had furry dinosaurs, or dinosaurs that had sort of like feathers that kind of look more like fur. But I think we don't, that wouldn't ever preserve. That wouldn't preserve in the fossil record, obviously. You would have to find something frozen like a woolly mammoth, like they have, to find that proof. Otherwise, I think too many paleo artists, in my opinion, they just kind of look stupid when they start putting all these feathers, and they go nuts. They maybe this dinosaur had feathers. Like all the evidence we have for like a velociraptor, or it's just little ulnar notches. And they're really vague, like rough ulnar notches. I haven't seen like deep, clearly defined. And even so, I think it would make a lot more sense for an animal that obviously couldn't fly. It wouldn't have flight feathers. That doesn't make sense evolutionarily. That's kind of dumb, right? I think that it would make more sense that they were spines. Like if you look at a cassowary, it has these long spines that stick out of its arm. It can't fly, so why would it have flight feathers? It doesn't have flight feathers, right? It has like furry, feathery coverings. It has feathers, barely. They really don't qualify as like flight feathers at all, obviously, or like an ostrich. But again, we don't have any fossil evidence of that other than just those ulnar notches. So I'd be like, it makes more sense like the Indominus Rex from Jurassic World that has spines coming out of its arm. That makes total sense to me. And I think that's probably what more dinosaurs look like. And until we have feather impressions for larger animals, I'm all for scaly dinosaurs. And plus, I think a lot of paleo artists, they don't do that great of a job with the feather coloration and distribution. They just make them look like chickens, kind of, with a little bit of coolness here and there, maybe. But one of these days I'm going to do a feathered dinosaur and do some really cool arrangements for how the feathers could move. And like we look at parrots today, parakeets or cockatiels or whatever, and they have these incredible displays that can move and show expression, and all these other dinosaurs just look like just like buckets of feathers, just feather and tar them, just they don't look very inspired or very cool, or there's no design really thought put into the feather distribution and coloration. A lot of times they just look kind of feathers and that's it, so I don't know. I'm pretty critical of a lot of the feather dinosaur art that I see, and I don't like most of it personally. I think they just go overboard and they just want to be like, look, it's like a giant bird, and I think dinosaurs are really in between. I don't think they're just, I think the birds we have today are not really close at all to what dinosaurs look like. I think they're very, very different, obviously, and I think that there's a lot to be said for then how dinosaurs looked by comparison. Archaeopteryx, again, very small dinosaur, very chicken-like size. Obviously, we have feather impressions of that, but give me a big theropod that has feathers. I haven't seen any yet, so I doubt that they were all covered in feathers like some people want to insinuate. I think that's just going way too heavy-handed, and it's just too like, they're birds, like, accept it, like they're something else, dude. They're not just birds. Anyway, that's my diatribe on that. What else we got here? Metal Dragon's asking about what about concept characters. Hi, a nerdy explanation. Yeah. What about concept characters? Metal Dragon, you gotta specify your question a little bit better. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by what about concept characters. What about concept characters? Night Dream, you're saying, do you think Ark Survival Evolved Dinosaurs did well? Ark Survival did dinosaurs well. I haven't played a lot of it. I really haven't played it at all. I've just seen some footage, and I worked on a commercial for it. I think some of their stuff was okay. Again, I remember the raptor. I worked on the raptor that they have for this commercial, and it has this like feathers behind its head, and they gave us like a game asset, and it had some stuff like I'm talking about. But it was more like a Deinonychus. It was okay. I didn't think it felt, again, it felt very just kind of felt heavy-handed. Again, I felt like it was just kind of, there wasn't this incredible artistry to it. It was just kind of like feathers and some cool colors, and meh. It wasn't like, wow, that's a beautiful piece of artwork. It's like generic-ish. Kind of felt generic. Didn't really feel that inspired to me. Starting from scratch, concept characters. Oh, concept characters. Yeah. Well, I mean, even then, concept character, I would still say start with the base mesh. You can always Z-remesh it or Dynamesh it and add more things to it, and then Z-remesh that and get clean topo. But if you know, like if you're going for a quadruped, you're going for a bipedal, you're going for a humanoid, always start with something that's already made, just because it makes your life easier. It just expedites the process, because it's about being creative. It's not about, unless you're trying to be like a technical director, or unless you want to be like someone who's, but see, they hire modelers almost more to be sculptors now than just a modeler. You know what I mean? They don't want to know how many clean edge loops you have. That's assumed you know how to do that, right? They want you to be inspired. They want you to be somebody who can create a fantastic character, not just amazing geometry or just amazing edge loops. Like, that's sort of like fundamental. That's like being able to read. Great, but we need you to be a speaker. So you need to be able to orate well and be able to read on the fly, and a musician. You got to be able to sight read, of course. But if you're going to play in an orchestra, you've got to be able to sight read on the fly very well and be able to be adaptive, and you've got to be able to have those higher end skills. So I say start with whatever makes your life easier, and then fix or read topo later. Anyway, just my personal opinion. Plus, I've never worked in a studio where they've ever asked me to start something from absolute scratch. They've always either given me a base mesh or said, we don't care how you make it, just make it. So it's like, just whatever gets the job done, get you paid, get yourself paid, and get out. Like, so concept characters, yeah. I mean, start from wherever you want. But again, if you want to make your life easier, man, this thumb looks weird. Yikes. Yeah, if you want to make your life easier, I would say, don't start from scratch. Vasquez, so you're saying, I guess if there should be an in-between, but that's the point of feathers with a reptilian brain. They barely have social understanding. It seems like they would have larger brain cavities. Okay. Yeah, a lot of them have small brain cavities. Proportionately, some had bigger than others, but yeah, a lot of them had small brain cavities for sure. I mean, look at Stegosaurus. A lot of them, most of them had small brain cavities for body size. Is poly count taken into consideration for printing? Barely. I mean, yeah, but you know, in general, you want to keep things around like 100,000 or 150,000 is like that middle range. You can go higher, gone as high as like 500,000. I think I've even brought in 1,000,000 to some points, but a lot of times you don't need to. Um, so I think with poly count, it's way more about man. This is like elongated fingers. I remember that. It's a weird choice on Nick's part. Um, yeah, poly count. I mean, you want to be safe with it, meaning that you don't want to go too high when you bring it into a preform or Cura. But they can handle a pretty good amount of polys too. So I would say you're good. You know, you don't have to worry that much about it. Just don't go into the millions upon millions. You can decimate something down and still have it look like 1,000,000 polys, but have it be like 100,000 or several 100,000. Um, yeah, no problem. It takes a slice, a little detail. Yeah, exactly. Vasquez got it too. Yeah, that's the other factors that come into it. He's got it. Thanks for the assist. Again, for anybody on Instagram, for the 2 people in there, if you want to hop over to the YouTube channel for Pixologic, you will find a much better feed of what you're seeing currently. So isolate this for a sec. Trying to bring this thumb down just to a more natural looking size proportionately. Actually, I'm gonna fix this because this crease, it just feels like it's in a weird place here. I just feel like that makes more sense. This is a really long thumb. I always forget. Starts at 70. Slash ZBrush is awesome, but you want to not start with its heaviest setting usually. Don't really worry too much about the inside because that'll be pressed up against his wrist, so you won't see that as they'll be fused together later on as one piece. That'll be a whole other adventure, is figuring out how to break this up so that it's about the same size as the original. Go for about 2 feet tall, maybe a little bit bigger, taller. Ah, it still looks weird. It's a very thin wrist. Yeah, I forgot about that. It's just really thin, really weird. Yeah, whatever. It's being covered up a lot by that hand anyway. Alrighty. Remember, someone else was suggesting this too, and this is a good idea. Whenever in doubt, you can do this. Take what you did well, duplicate it, And run the duplicate, delete. Let's see here, we'll go a little low. Delete lower, delete higher, and then delete hidden. So now it's just we have a duplicate of his arm. And then we're just going to do a little switcheroo. That's the one time it's ever been useful where you take the rotate, and once you hit the 180, it flips it also in the perpendicular depth axis to your camera view. And oh wait, actually, now we want to flip it the other way. Mirror. Yeah, that's right. Okay. And then we want to do whoop. I want to do that. And we move this over here. And this will give us a good way. It's just like cheating, kind of. But it gives us just a good outline, kind of, for where. So we don't need the rest of that massive arm. Just need that. Delete hidden again. This will give us a nice outline. Give me a nice outline to follow. As opposed to just trying to do it all. Just like make your life easier, man. Whenever possible. Why not? Let's do some transparency. Obviously, there'll be some adjustments because his arm is much thicker than hers. So if I increase size in this case, if I scale up here, huge, and we can see how it would wrap around his wrist. So that's kind of, yeah, like I knew I got her finger in about the right place, her index finger, but yeah, maybe it didn't really help that much in the end, but oh well. Gives you an idea for other projects if you guys ever want to try that. And sorry, I missed a bunch of questions here. Let's see here. Do you use ZBrush a lot with this workflow? Z-remesher? No. Not so much. I mean, once I get to a certain point, I just dynamesh things together. Z-remesher would be, I mean, if I wanted to adjust things here, I might, but right now I'm fine. I might Z-remesh a little later, but don't really need to. Am I using a Wacom tablet? I'm using a Cintiq. So it's you know what a Cintiq is. Randy Dice, how's the stream going tonight? So far, so good. Got a nice viewership in here. Doing okay. I'm working on Cupid rescuing Psyche. So it's your question. So if I back out here a second, too far. If I choose Cupid and I reveal Cupid, and where's his wings? Boop. So I'm taking an old piece that I did and reworking it, reposing it, and then also resculpting areas and throwing in new bodies and working with old ones to create sort of the next sequence. So the original piece is over here for those who haven't seen this yet. This was all 3D printed on an Ultimaker the extended 3, and I taught a whole masterclass on how to do this, meaning how to do a separate piece, like multi-piece, larger than your build volume project. So there you go. And you can see that on my site too if you want a better view. If you go to lion-arts.com, I'll throw that in the chat for you guys too. If you want to see a better look at that, go to lion-arts.com and you can check it out there. Just pull some references of anorexic models. They're bound to have thin wrists. This is true, sadly. Jakob. Oh, yeah. You're on my IG talking to no one. Yeah, sorry, dude. It's I need to figure out a better way to arrange somehow. It's almost like I need to be able to wear my camera, my phone, so it looks at the screen, and then I can see both everything. I need some sort of suspension rig system for that. I got to figure that out. Yeah, sorry to anyone who's come over from Instagram. It's a conundrum. Just gonna move the mic a little bit. Anyway, all right, getting back into this. Finish up this wrist, get on to more fun stuff. I should say this grip. And I'm also thinking about streaming more on my own. I've been saying this for a couple weeks now, and I'm going to be doing that soon. Meaning on my own, meaning like apart from when I'm streaming here with Pixologic. So if anyone would be interested, start following my Instagram now so that you are up to date when I do start launching some other streams. I play video games like most people my age and younger, so I'll probably stream some of the games I'm going to be playing, and I'll be doing that on my Twitch, and I'll see if I can restream it to YouTube as well. Probably going to be playing some Resident Evil 5 with my buddy Lucas on his channel this week, maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after, something like that. Depends on him. We'll see. My Twitch is Daniel Lion Arts. I will also be streaming some ZBrush sculpting on there too. And eventually, sooner than later, I'm going to be starting a podcast and be interviewing some pretty awesome people. So Twitch, excuse me. Lucky to be friends with a lot of cool people in this industry, so I'm going to have them come on and we'll do some fun online chat interviews. Pick their brain, ask them some interesting questions. I always want to try to ask people questions, interview questions that they haven't been asked before or that you can't just easily Google, right? Because I hate it when I feel for these, different people who are interviewed, by interviewers for whether it's a movie or whatever, and they're always asked the same question over and over and over, and it's like, especially when it's been asked already and you can Google it and you know the answer is already out there. I would imagine it would get repetitive. I mean, granted, you're being paid a lot just to answer the same question over and over again, but so anyway, I'm going to be looking to ask people questions that I find interesting that I know no one else has asked them, or it's not out there, it's not publicly available, and let them see what they give us answer-wise. Sorry, my English is a little... when I'm trying to do this and I'm trying to talk with any amount of articulation, it can drop off on the vocabulary sometimes. But yeah, I think it'll be fun. It'll be really cool to be able to interview some people that I'm lucky to be friends with, and I really respect and admire their work, and give you guys some insight and give myself some insight into how their brain works, how they approach projects, how they engage with what they're doing, where they get their inspiration from, anecdotal stories, and just insight that no one else has thought to ask them, because I find that there's just so much of the same questions being asked. So It gets old. I get tired of hearing the same questions being answered, so I want to get answers that I want to hear that are actually inspiring and useful. What's your mother's maiden name? Right. Wonder if YouTube allows art streams. What do you mean if? I'm sure they do. I mean, that we're on one right now. What do you mean art streams? Streaming art is not the best way to get a large following, but if the content is good, you're also consistent, you'll get there. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to be just art streams. That's like minimal for me. Have I played Doom Eternal? Dan Ellis. It's funny you should ask. I have. I beat it on my PS4, but I got it for PC. And a funny, stupid little story of mine. I messed up somehow with my Bethesda account, creating a new one on my PS4 because I couldn't remember my old one, and it was so late at night when I was. God damn it! This thing keeps. Let me hide this. Let's just do it. What do I want to do here? I want to hide that. Okay, so I just messed up on my PS4 setup with Bethesda, so I created a new account. I restored my old one, but can't disconnect one from my PC or my PS4. Excuse me. So I just created a new one, or restored my old one to use my PC. So I'll be playing Doom Eternal on PC and probably stream it, I guess. I already started a little bit of it just to test it out, and it runs amazingly on my PC. So, yeah, I love Doom Eternal, man. I'm a huge Doom fan. The original was one of my favorites as a kid. Summer of '93 was just Jurassic Park and Doom. That was my life. So to play this new one, which really feels like it's a true, real rebirth to the brand and to the franchise. I mean, Doom 2016 was fun, but it wasn't nearly this good. I mean, Doom Eternal's awesome. So much fun. And decent storytelling for an action first-person shooter. You know, they did a good job of creating something intriguing and fun to experience. It just makes you feel like such a badass, too. Like, you just, from the moment it begins, you just feel so pumped. It's awesome. Love that game. So anyway, yeah, Dan Ellis, I'll be playing that. Do you like any video games that inspires you to create stuff on ZBrush? And Randy's asking, there a big difference between PS4 and PC? I wouldn't say there's a big difference. Yeah, 2016 was slower compared to Eternal. Yeah, I wouldn't say there's a huge difference. I mean, resolution-wise, but when you really look at like texture details, I mean, it's negligible in my opinion. I don't turn everything. I've turned everything up to like ultra, and it doesn't look like it's like, oh my god, it's really, it's not that big of a difference. Yeah, it is crazy to say, right? Yeah, but yeah, big difference PS4 to PC. I say it's negligible. I mean, higher resolution, of course, but it's not like night and day. It's not like it's not like you're missing out on something if you have it for one system and then you don't have it on PC. I mean, it's definitely a little bit better, but again, it's nothing that's like, oh my god, you have to play it on PC. Yeah, if you got it for a console, you're good to go. It's pretty awesome on every platform that it's on. But apparently, the best is to. I think the best was It was Xbox and PC, I think. But I don't know. It was also on PS4. I have no complaints. It actually did crash a little bit here and there. There were some crashes, but I think they patched that. Did have some random crashes. I'm gonna do the unthinkable and just use the move brush here and just yonk. You could say that's improper, but whatever. Your body compresses a bit more than you think. Alright, so now we're going to take care of the phalanges and metacarpals. Speaking of Ultra, did you watch the teaser for Unreal 5? Yes, I was talking about that earlier. Insane. Unreal 5 is super exciting. I cannot wait to work with it. I'm currently very early on in the stages of learning Unreal Engine 4.24, whatever it is now. Working on a short film and a pitch piece. Both are really pitch pieces, but one is very much just a pitch piece with a couple different segments, and the other is a formal short film pitch piece. To answer, this leads back to the question of any video games by Jose Olympus, any video games that inspire me. I mean, The Last Guardian, it's hard to see because the lights are not working all right now. I think something happened to the wiring, or I might need to replace a battery, but there's a Last Guardian 3D print that I did. That's it was insane. Again, if you go to my website, you can see that there, a better shot of it. Just go here, and you can see my 3D print of The Last Guardian of Trico. That was super inspiring to me. That game I'm making a pitch piece short film based on, just to see what will happen. Hopefully, something positive. But yeah, it really moved me. It was an incredible story, beautiful story, very touching, very powerful emotionally, and just a brilliant work of art. And yeah, I really believe I can do it justice to attempt to make a film out of it. So I'm doing a little short, and then hopefully we'll see what happens after that. But I would love to do the feature film. I really want to migrate away from just doing sculpture work. I love doing sculpture work. I'll always do it for myself. But my dream has never been to be an artist for hire. My dream is to be an artist of stories, storyteller. So right now, more than ever, it's a good time to be a virtual storyteller, I guess you could say, or a digital one. So that's why I'm going to be working in the Unreal Engine and in Maya, of course, and ZBrush to bring some characters to life. I already did all the mocap for my Last Guardian short. I portray the little boy running around, trying to escape the monster that is Trico, that he doesn't know is his friend yet. And it's inspired by both the game and the original trailer from the game that they first released back in, like, whatever it was, 2008, something like that. So yeah, it's going to be pretty awesome. It's going to be pushing things to their limit, but I think it will be pretty incredible with the technology. And it's a very simple introduction to the world and to the characters of The Last Guardian, but I think it'll resonate with people a lot. I think they'll enjoy it. Interesting problem here. Might need to extend that a little bit now. Let's see here. Does console run at the same FPS as for Doom Eternal? I think so. I mean, maybe you could probably get higher. I'm sure you can get higher frame rates. I know you can get higher frame rates on PC. So I guess no. I mean, I think it's consistent, like 30 frames a second. I think it can get up higher. But on PC, I know you can get like a steady 60 frames a second or higher, depending on your settings in your PC. Unreal 5 character artists. We don't have to retopo animators. We can't work with your topology. Yeah. I think the basic rule for people who don't know or who won't get it for Unreal 5, if it's static mesh, topology matters not at all, practically. If it's never going to move, right? But if it has to be animated, yeah, obviously good topology will always matter. It just means you can have higher res maps and more displacement, whatever. But yeah, you still have to be... yeah, if it's static and it's not going to move at all, or it's not going to be simulated crumbling, you're not going to run any of that stuff on it, then I think, yeah, topology can go out the window. But that's usually how it always has been. Not poly count wise, but topology wise, it's always been that way for static environment meshes. No one cares about topology, it doesn't matter. What did I use for mocap? I used the Xsense. I was really lucky to meet some of the right people at SIGGRAPH, and I chatted with them about. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I might have to. Okay, I'm gonna have to fix this. I chatted with them about what I was doing. Damn, this is weird now. Okay. I chatted with them with what I was doing and about my short film, and they happen to be huge Last Guardian fans too. So they were like, "Oh my God, we would love to help you." So then that person led me to the right people at Xsense, and they loaned me a suit for 2 weeks to use for this project specifically. And I am considering buying one at some point, or want a suit like it, because... Oh, what happened here? This is so weird. Did I move something? I did move something. What the hell? When did that happen? How did that happen? Dang it. All right. Here's a lesson for you guys. Always be careful about... there it was, I think, right? Is that it? Yeah, that's it. Okay. That can happen. There you go. I was like, how did that get out of line? All right. Duh. I'm an idiot. That's why. Because I did this. Sorry. Anyway. There we go. So I used Xsense. It's a mocap suit that has sensors on all your major joints, and it lets you run around freely. So you can run for what I did. I literally ran like 500, 600 feet straight. Like it's one take. And then it's a body pack. So you have like an SD card, essentially, that a little solid state drive on there that records all your data from magnetic sensors and inertial sensors that all come together. And it does a really good job. Like, it's shockingly good. It looks pretty much I would say it's as good as like a Wacom system, which uses infrared light and little reflective balls. So I was able to run around. I went to this playground. I looked like a crazy person. I had a friend of mine with me. I did a bunch of different actions that the kid does in the short, of course, and I did like huge runs, like 500, 600 feet long stretches where he's running from Trico and doing different reactions, looking over his shoulder and all this stuff. So, and then I have this other system that I learned from the last job I had, last major job, where it's called mocap. Is it called mocap X? Is that what it's called? Let me see here. For facial, yeah, it's mocap X. It's for facial animation. So you can use your iPhone with a 3D depth sensing camera, and you can record all your facial expressions, and it'll match it to a good topological facial setup. So I have this head that I've been working on now for a while. The little boy, it looks really good, pretty much photoreal, and I'm going to use my expressions to emote his expressions, and that'll all be kind of put together with the mocap physical motion, his expressions all in the same mesh in the one animation, or the one big take essentially. There will be cuts, of course, though. But I love good filmmaking when you have one continuous take that has purpose and meaning, and it really intensifies the emotion or the chase or the sequence. When you realize it's uncut, and it's really uncut, not cheats where they like pan behind something and then that's where the cut was made or whatever. When they can do a really incredible single take, and it's filled with action and different things going on as the camera's maybe rotating around the character or being put in almost impossible positions, kind of like what they did for some of 1917. I'm a big fan of that. I love that, and I love pushing the visual medium. I think that's a big thing that a lot of filmmakers miss, is they forget that if you could just listen to something and know exactly what's going on, you're kind of defeating the point of making a good movie, I feel. There's of course times where that will happen, and it's almost unavoidable, but I feel like a lot of filmmakers need to learn to really think about framing and perspective and emotional impact and crescendo of emotion, meaning you ramp someone up from one place to another, and there's purpose along that whole trajectory emotionally, through the camera, through the sound design, through the characters' emotions and or actions. It's not just, all right, let's place the camera here. All right, we got that shot. Good enough. Like, everything should be picturesque, I think. I think most films do not have that quality where you can just pause it, and almost every frame, every major sequence is like a work of art, where you have the composition well positioned and your eyes led from one part of the frame to the other, or from one area to another, or there's a lot of lack of real artistry in a lot of filmmaking, and it just becomes this product that people push out, and it just doesn't feel like it's ripped from a graphic novel or a painting, and I feel like that's where you want people to be in awe of visuals they're looking at, right? Not that it's just eye candy, but you have to have a good story, of course, but it's like, why should one lack the other? You know, they're not mutually exclusive. I think we should have great writing, amazing visuals, amazing music. Like that should be filmmaking. That should always be what is the best of filmmaking. And that's when it is the best, but I feel like that's rare. I think we often get a lot of generic crap that is just a product. It's McDonald's filmmaking. It's garbage that's barely art. It's more just a product. And anyway, I'm very critical of it. So I'm not going to produce anything like that. I want to be able to produce something that people are... I want to invoke speechlessness, right? That's my goal. With any piece of art I make, I always want people to either be speechless or at least curse and say wow and really enjoy what I'm creating, not just the last thing you want is that response of indifference, of people just not caring, right? Like, who wants that? Apathy is like the biggest enemy of great art, or of creating art, I guess. If you create something that you think is great but everyone else is like not moved by it, I mean, is that successful? I mean, it could be, but I think a lot of times if your goal is to create something that people enjoy and are moved by, that takes a lot of effort. And I think that should be the goal for a lot of artists, though. Of course, sometimes we make art just for ourselves, and that's fine, because you just need to get something out from your head and that you love it, and that's all that matters. But I understand that fine line of, I still have to create a product. Of course, if I want to make a movie, you have to create a product, obviously. You have to create something that people want to consume, people want to buy, people want to enjoy. But it doesn't mean that it has to cater to the lowest common denominator. I think, if anything, film is such an educational tool and such an inspiring one. I think it should be something that elevates people, right? It can elevate, it can educate. You can actually have someone walking out of the theater and talking about more depth and more artistry, more science, more whatever, right? Emotion, thought process, than just the opposite, which is just to walk away. It was like candy, no nutritional value, actually probably detrimental to your health. While you have a full course meal with vegetables and some good protein, your body gets a lot more out of that. So I feel the same way about the emotional impact and the cerebral impact of filmmaking. I think that it's crucial that filmmakers make intelligent, powerful, emotionally intelligent films that make people stop, think, and feel, right? That's why I love Christopher Nolan. I love a lot of his films, almost all of them, I would say, because I really get a lot out of Jonathan, his brother, and Christopher Nolan's writing and directing. And I'm a fan of theirs, I think, because I'm a big fan of Michael Crichton. And that's why I was such a huge Jurassic Park fan. On top of the superficiality of the awesomeness of the dinosaurs and the CG, I think it's great when you can, like Crichton did, educate people in something they didn't know much about or anything about. And then they walk away with new vocabulary, new understanding of science, new understanding of a subject matter that they had previously almost no knowledge of or zero knowledge of. And now, after this incredible story with these interesting characters in a fantastic situation, different scenarios, you drop them in there and then watch what happens, and you go along for this incredible ride, but you walk away with something of substance, not just candy, right? You walk away with like an amazing new set of knowledge, basically. That's where my sweet spot is for a lot of storytelling, where you walk away with something of value, not just pure entertainment, but more. Anyway, sorry, went on a long talk there. What did I miss? Let me scroll back up here quick. All right. So yeah, use accents. So how hyped are you about Unreal 5? Like straight from ZBrush to Unreal 5? King's Letter. I mean, I'm excited for it. I'm excited because the rendering power and the GI, the real-time GI lighting, I think that's great. And a lot of it can just be done immediately, and you can see instant results, and then you can tweak it very quickly. I think real-time rendering is just, when it's photoreal or near photoreal, that's where it's most exciting. If these tools were available but it didn't look photoreal, or you couldn't achieve photorealism, it would be much less interesting to me. But the fact that you can achieve photoreal imagery in real time and adjust it in real time, that is true real-time ray tracing, right? Rendering. Or at least getting close to real time, where it's like you wait a second or two or a few seconds to get a full frame in clarity. That to me is really exciting. Because that lets me, as someone who's a filmmaker, an aspiring filmmaker, to realize what I see up here so clearly immediately and then be able to convey that to other people. That's the ultimate dream. So for me, looking at that, it is very exciting. But going straight from ZBrush to Unreal, that's fine for static meshes, like I said, but if you want to animate things or have other dynamics, you've got to be able to go from ZBrush into Maya, and then Maya, from ZBrush into Substance, really. Substance Painter, Designer, then into Maya, or then into, Maya to animate it, to rig it, all that stuff, and then into Unreal. Certain things can be done straight in Unreal, like the atmosphere and your lighting, but animation still and a lot of other things still have to be done in Maya. So, for static meshes, environment stuff, if that's great. I think it's exciting. But also being smart and judicial about your polygons, since most people won't have supercomputers. I think I have really good setup, so I can probably push things, but still, you always want to be, it's like having a lot of money. You can still waste it. You got to be judicial. You got to be wise about your polygon count and crafting good topology that's very efficient, so that it allows you to pour in maybe into more crucial areas. So for me, if I'm going to be doing something with The Last Guardian, Trico's got tons of feathers, and I can't have them interpenetrating. I've got to have them like end cloth simulation or something that maybe I can figure out in Unreal, but that's going to be very taxing, because even a few low poly feathers times several 100,000 or several thousand upon thousands, that's a lot to compute. So I've got to think about my budget from that point of view, technically, that the polygons have to be distributed according to what's most important and what needs it, versus, I can just throw all this stuff in there in the kitchen sink. Like, that's not really smart. It's just like money. You don't just waste your money because you have a lot. You invest it wisely, and then you execute according to your best amount of information that you have to invest, or to whatever, to sell, that kind of thing. So I think I think you got to think about your budget, polygon wise, for sure, still. But it's awesome you can get more, because for me, it's like if you have that much bigger of a budget, that means you can do that much more cool stuff with it. And if you're really judicial and really strategic about it, you can go far beyond what even the average person might do, because they're not being that surgical, like splitting hairs, looking for everything, not to be too technical, but just being wise about how you invest your polygonal budget, so to speak. What else we got here? Overclocking PC master race. Right. I think what it means is that you have your base mesh with proper topo and just subdivide it more. Yeah, that can be too. But it depends. You have to think about your animator still and your rigger. So you have to bake high maps to low. So you don't have to bake high maps to low. I mean, that would be nice, but still, you got to think about your rigger. They're not going to want to rig something that's like millions of polys. That'll be hell on earth. Unless there was other ways to rig that would be more efficient to paint the weights. I don't know. Always remember, Jesus saves, and you should too. So you should you. Thank you. That's good. That's hilarious. So it's like Jesus. Nice. You don't need special software to transcode export. No, I think you still need you need to export properly. I think you still need to export it out as an OBJ or whatever, FBX. I don't think it'll take ZTLs. Old Boy Korean version. Oh, King's Letter. Yeah, I need to watch that. I've heard about it. I know a lot about it, but I haven't watched it actually. Satoshi Kon is the best director editor ever. I've got to check out his stuff. I've heard a lot about it. I feel bad because I'm considered basically a film buff, but there's still some films I haven't seen, so maybe I shouldn't tout that tag. Because a lot of films are more consumerism. Yeah. It sounds like you might be a big fan of early Ridley Scott. Yeah, I love Ridley Scott stuff for sure. I love a lot of Ridley Scott stuff. I even liked. I know people are gonna hate me on this, but I really liked even Covenant. Covenant was fun. Yeah, I didn't think it was the best film ever or anything, but I enjoyed it. I still had fun with it. I didn't really care for Prometheus that much. There's elements of Prometheus that make you think and that were intriguing, but there's a lot of it too that was just like, some cringy stuff too. So I'll take the meat off the bone on those last two that he made. So Covenant, Alien Covenant, and Prometheus are both, I'm 50-50 on them. But yeah, Alien, I love Aliens too. I love a good steady thriller, but then I also love an action thriller like Aliens or Terminator 2. James Cameron, I'm a fan of his earlier stuff too. I'm a big fan of early Spielberg, where that has, to me, it's like the whole 9-course meal, in my opinion, because it is very consumer friendly, but it's also incredibly emotionally moving, and it makes you think and you feel a lot. And it has this beautiful packaging. It has this incredible, well thought out shots, amazing music by John Williams, like the Mozart of our day. You have great editing, great sound design, because you usually got guys from Skywalker Sound. You got like someone like Gary Rydstrom doing the dinosaurs for Jurassic Park. I think Spielberg, having storyboarded most of his movies, like his big ones himself, like Jurassic Park, I'm pretty sure he did a lot of that for Schindler's List as well. I'm a huge Spielberg fan, especially his older stuff. Newer stuff just doesn't, it's not hitting the mark for me like the older ones did. But like E.T., or stuff he helped produce as well, like Back to the Future, Indiana Jones, all of them, but especially the third one for me. The first and third are my favorites. So yeah, I just think those are great films. They stand the test of time. They're forever classics, and you can show them for any generation, and they'll be equally enjoyed, I think, overall. Yeah, so of course Star Wars is the original three are classics. I don't think of them as there's more technical feats involved, I think, than artistic framing, but there's some good framing, of course. There's definitely some good shots in there too. But I guess because there's such I stand back a bit more from Star Wars because I was never just a massive Star Wars fan, and I enjoy them all, but I've just never been someone who's like, sorry, 1 second here. Save the story, cancel. I've just never been a huge Star Wars fan. So that being said, I don't look to Star Wars as like the end-all be-all for me when it comes to filmmaking. But I've always enjoyed it. I've always thought they're fun. All right, just going live again on Instagram for like the 2 people that care. Anyway. But yeah, George Lucas is a classic too, of course. From Vietnam with Love. Ridley Scott, if you look at his behind the scenes, he's an artist and can visually concept a scene. His early stuff reminds me of Tenebrism. Interesting. Tenebrism. Yeah, Ridley Scott's stuff is great, and I am a fan. I also was once I learned about the new series of Westworld that was coming out started years ago, and then I was lucky to work on it. I was hooked. So I went and watched the old original Westworld, which was Michael Crichton's first and only film that he ever wrote, directed, all that. And while it's definitely, could definitely use improvements here and there, it was still a very intriguing idea, and you can see where it could have been improved for sure, but it was still, ahead of its time, I think, in a lot of ways. And I say that because if you watch Westworld and then you watch Terminator, you see that James Cameron was definitely influenced, you could say, by Westworld. It's about a killer robot, many robots in Westworld, but a killer robot in particular that goes after the guys, and then the guys have to kill it and have to escape it. It sees in thermal vision, very red at times. All this stuff is, it's very interesting. It'd be hard. I would find it hard to believe that James Cameron wasn't influenced by that in some way. Kind of feels like he ripped off Crichton and did it better, to his credit, because Terminator 2, I think, is the epitome of the Terminator films. First one's good, but second one's freaking awesome. I love the second one a lot. One of my favorite movies, along with Aliens, and of course Jurassic Park, and Matrix, and Interstellar, Back to the Future, Indiana Jones. I'm such an old head, though, too, I guess. I like new stuff that comes out, but I'm like, it still wasn't as good as the old stuff. Which I think a large part is true. There's very few new films that really make me think, wow, like that's a new all-time classic. I'm not a fan of contemporary anything. See, contemporary, it's not going to be here long before it feels dated, Stuff that feels timeless, stuff that is timeless, that's what I'm a bigger fan of. Creating work that, which makes doing the future hard, but not impossible. Because I think even though Blade Runner wasn't the biggest hit at the box office, it stood the test of time as far as people appreciating it. I'm not the biggest Blade Runner fan, but I appreciated it enough where I feel like the second one is actually better, in my opinion. At least that it keeps your attention easier, longer. I love Harrison Ford in the original, but I feel like there's pacing and there's certain amounts of quietness that defeat it sort of hurts the film, right? I think it sustains its silence, and you can fall asleep easily during Blade Runner. I think for a lot of it you have to really be awake and focused, and want to watch it. Otherwise, if you put it on late at night, you're passing out, you're done, because there's so many quiet moments and such soothing sounds, and it's just very much not like you don't sit up in your seat and like, oh my god, this is like you're just like, oh, this is interesting. It's a little bit more cerebral, but it's not engaging. It doesn't grab you and make you think, wow, I've got to see this, right? So I think where the second one succeeds a bit more is in the modernized pacing and sound design, but they still retained a lot of the aesthetic of the original, and then it made some very interesting changes. So I think the new one, while it probably, I mean, from looking at it I went with a female roommate to take her to see it the second time I saw it. The first time I saw it was with a buddy of mine from Forum Labs, Jake, and we saw it at the TCL Theater here, the IMAX in Hollywood, and it was awesome. The sound there was incredible. So we were blown away. But I took my female roommate to see it, and she was like, yeah, I don't know, I really like it that much. And I can see the why in some ways. I mean, the way they kind of characterize and treat women in the story is probably not the greatest in some ways. At least, I can understand her take on it. Could have been a little bit more, I think, I don't know, could have been a little bit better here and there, for sure. Not that it's horrible, but I think it was, whatever. It's, 2019, 2018, whatever. It's different approach to things, for sure. I think some of it would be for the better. So I get what she was saying. But simply from an overall artistic standpoint, I really enjoyed Blade Runner 2049. And I thought there were some really cool elements to it. And the lighting, man, I know everyone was like jumping all over Roger Deakins, and rightfully so. I think his lighting in that film was amazing. I really loved when they were walking into my brain's farted right now. Jared Leto's character's office, essentially, or the records office or whatever, where they're bringing him down, and you see all the different, what are they called? The non-humans, the androids, total brain fart. You know what I'm talking about. And they have I think they have Dave Bautista's model, kind of his, why am I brain farting? What the heck are the second Blade Runner is better blasphemy. Yeah, I know. What the heck? Replicants. There we go. Jeez, brain fart. They have all the different replicants. I just enjoyed the second one more, Vasquez. That's it. I just enjoyed it more. The first one, it's slow. It's really slow. It feels like it's just a slow burn. And I'm not saying it's bad. I just think that I enjoyed the second one more. And maybe that's partly my age. I don't know. Could be partly my age. I don't know. I just appreciated its pacing a bit more, for sure. I think there's elements to the first one that are great, for sure. But I don't pop it in nearly as frequently as I would Aliens or Alien or any of my other favorite films. But yeah, I know some people will say the same thing. Blasphemy, he doesn't like the first Blade Runner as much as the second. Different strokes for different folks. If one thing's not true, if one thing is true, it's that I'm not afraid to share my opinion that may be unpopular. We're all different. Welcome to planet Earth. Everyone's got different opinions. What else did I miss here? Which Indiana Jones film is your favorite? It's got to be the third one, I think. Sorry, I missed that earlier. I love the father-son relationship there, even though I don't have a rough relationship with my dad at all. I have a great relationship with my father. I just love seeing their bond kind of heal and strengthen, and that dynamic I think that was always fun. What else? And Doom PDO, yeah. And the first one was more conceptual, trying stuff out. Yeah, and I would say that's a valid point. It's they were still kind of, I think the 70s and the 80s, especially 70s, was Blade Runner the first one made in the 70s or the 80s? I feel like it was borderline 79 or something, right? I think. Anyway, it feels like things made from the 70s and early 80s they were more experimental in both good and bad ways, right? We got some amazing experimental films and tests in that during that time, but then we also had some really kind of experimental, boring, slower, like they just didn't get pacing right. I feel like a lot of pacing and editing was still off a bit in the 70s. It wasn't a certain level of, they didn't find that right kind of beat and rhythm, you know? I mean, like the way you speak, there should be a certain level of rhythm to how someone speaks properly that's most universally Westernly accepted and embraced versus how someone from another culture might speak, right? So to us, it might sound off. So I feel like filmmaking was still kind of perfecting pacing and editing, and I feel like now it's almost gotten too mechanical, where you can sort of stretch it out a little bit, or there's more wiggle room now. I think you don't have to be so locked in. Where things feel so formulaic now, where they almost are like, all right, at this point we have to have promise, at this point we have to have payoff, and they have to constantly be like, you know, perfectly parallel to each other in time or something. And I feel like you can break that up more. You can play a little bit more, but don't go too far where it's like you wait too long for a payoff and then you almost forgotten what the promise was in the beginning, you know, that kind of thing. So I feel like that's where the 70s kind of had some struggle with the pacing of films. Vasquez, I'm your age and I will pray for your soul. Sorry, dude. I know. I just feel like that's the thing, though. All right, like that's what I'm saying. I'm not afraid to share my unpopular opinion. I feel like it's the cool kids have to say, if you want to be one of the crowd, you want to be one of the right ones, you have to say, "First Blade Runner's amazing," and you love it. And I don't really care if people disagree with me. I didn't like it that much. I don't hate it, but I wasn't like, oh my god, this is like the best film. Like it's just, I have my own opinion, and I'm not afraid to be like, I didn't care for it as much. I know not everyone agrees, but just it didn't grab me, you know. I was like, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, replicant. There we go. It's funny. Everyone's asking the same questions here now. What do you think about UE5? How you can import assets directly from ZBrush? Everyone's asking the same question. Go back in the feed, man. Yeah. Ishmael. About UE5, it's exciting. Yeah. I mean, just because they said like you can bring it directly from ZBrush without having to change it, that's always been like I could always create an asset in ZBrush that was just less polys and export it out as an OBJ with its maps and then import it into Unreal Engine 4. I could do that right now. That's not anything really new. And typically you don't want to import something that is 33 million polys. That's just there's no real advantage to that if you can even decimate it and then bake out maps that will look the same. You don't need to tax your machine with 33 million polys that are just like, you know, instanced. That's cool, but unless there's a real need for that, like if there was an actual need to have it be that high a poly count, you know, where that statue had sides of it you'll never really see, you know, areas that are just useless. Like the viewer would never really care to look underneath the shield in this one particular area. It doesn't serve a purpose to the game, the story, or even really, you know, detail. It's like, what's the point? So, you know, I feel like that's a bit, it's a buzz phrase. It's a hype word, right? Like, oh my God, you can go straight from ZBrush into the Unreal. So what? That's not really... That's great for people who don't know how to decimate, people who just know how to sculpt and subdivide, and then export. But that's wrong. That's like, as a 3D artist who specializes in 3D printing, I got stuff from Disney. Right, I worked on stuff from Disney, from their consumer product side, from artists who clearly don't know what they were doing, because I got assets that were millions, hundreds, like 100 million polys or more. I'm like, dude, this does not need to be subdivided that high at all. It was only subdivided that high because some moron didn't know how to not subdivide. They didn't know how to sculpt and distribute their polygons wisely, right? They didn't know how to edit topology in a way so that you're efficiently distributing your polygons. They just were like, oh, I need more detail in this one little area, so let me subdivide the entire model, you know, times 4, as opposed to, oh, I need some more edge loops here. Since texture maps and UVs are not a thing in 3D printing, you just add some edge loops where you need them. Add some detail selectively, and then carry on about your business. Because if you have this at like 40 million polys, that's already way too high. Like, you don't need to go higher. You just need to redistribute your polygons typically, you know. So, you know, more polygons doesn't mean better. It's just it often means that it's just higher res, but it always doesn't always mean that they're well distributed polygons, right? Even in a well made topology for a model, you want to be able to decimate that and have it still look good, so that you can accept it into a lot of programs that are, you know, for setting up your print in 3D printing. You don't want to give it something that's like 40 million polys. It just, I don't think it will handle it, you know. So there's a lot of hype involved in how they orchestrate, you know, wording and marketing, and I don't think there's a lot of real practical application to having stuff be 40, 50,000, I mean 40, 50 million polys or more. It's, you know, I have to really see a real case study that'd be like, this is why we needed every piece to be 30 million polys. Like, that's just crazy. So, I'm a details kind of guy. I mean, I like looking at facts, evidence, reality. Like, get past the hype. I'm always skeptical. You know, show me a need for why there has to be that many polys in one object and then have it be instanced like crazy. Show me a real need for that where it actually benefits the game, the player, the story, the film, whatever. Show me where it's actually that useful to have that, as opposed to just being lazy and being like, I don't want to have to do anything more. I sculpted it. I've got its maps. Export. 30 million. That's just, it doesn't really seem like there's a lot of usefulness to that. It's nice to have higher res assets, of course, but I just don't think it needs to be that. It doesn't need to be that crazy. Okay, so what else got here? So, okay, different strokes for different folks. Just out of curiosity, what do you like about a director? Style, visuals, editing, or something else? What do I like about a director? Yeah, I would say they kind of all go together. I mean, a director is steering the ship, right? So, I guess if I had to say what I respect most about directors, for those wondering, those who are writers and directors, right? Because a director, people give some directors way too much credit because they didn't write the story they're directing. They couldn't have thought up those characters and those scenarios in all that detail. They're just taking what's written and maybe improving on it or guiding it or realizing it. So there's definitely talent involved in that. But I think the directors I respect the most are those who can write and direct a great film, right? Or storyboard it and film it. That's impressive. Those are the ones I respect the most. So I respect good writer-directors. But otherwise, if it's just directing, and they're taking someone else's script, which is most directors, it's I guess creating something that's visually striking and guiding the actors or the scenario to have a really powerful emotional impact. That's what I respect most about directors. So it's like, yeah, style goes hand in hand with visuals. Like, they need to be, visual effects are irrelevant. Like, I mean, they matter, but it's like everything has good visual effects today, so who gives a crap? Like, I don't care how good the visual effects are if the story's garbage. So it always comes back down to a great story. Then the visuals complement the great story, and the music complements a great story, and the sound design complements a great story. So you've got to have a good mind for storytelling and how to visually communicate that, which of course encompasses audio and your emotional impact, how the actors deliver their lines, that it sounds as natural and as believable as possible. So I don't know, hope that answers your question. Comics legend David Blaine. What? I haven't seen David Blaine in forever. I don't know why people keep. It's like two people who are like, it's David Blaine. I don't know. Maybe I should shave all this off. Maybe then I won't look like David Blaine. About the poly count on the Unreal video, I believe it's got to be more about the LOD dynamic transition being seamless. That way we can have cinematics on games, in games, when camera can do a macro shot on any asset. Yeah, I mean, that's cool, again, but how often do we want to go from far away to like zoom into a pore, you know? I'm sure it has some purpose, and it has some uses, but I just feel like, you know, the option's there, that's great. You know. Sounds like a sweatshop version of modeling. So I'm a big Tarantino fan. I like some of his stuff for sure. I do like a lot of Tarantino's work actually. Yeah, not all of it though. But I like I like Kill Bill. I love Pulp Fiction. Thought that was great. Not a big fan of Reservoir Dogs. I think my favorites are Kill Bill and Pulp Fiction, for sure, by him. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was fun too. It was cool to actually be able to go to some of the places they shot. Like I went to that restaurant that Brad Pitt and Leonardo and Al Pacino were all in. I went there like after the movie. That was cool, just to see local places that were featured in the movie. And Inglourious Bastards. I love Inglourious Bastards. It's a great one too. To me, the point of the statues is just a showcase that meshes with a high poly count can be handled without causing any performance drops, and that's the best way to show them that. Yeah, that's fair. You didn't know I talked about it. Sorry, yeah, Ishmael. It's all right. No big deal. And there's David Benoff, DB Weiss. Yeah. Got another question. The Stranger Things directors are great. Yeah, I like Stranger Things. I do. I enjoyed it. They are homaging Spielberg a lot too. Surely that's why they added Sculptress Pro mode to include extremely high levels of detail in small areas without having to blow your system out with 50 million poly. Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, that's true, especially for if you want to do 3D printing. That's true. Ishmael's asking, do you think that characters in the future will be created procedurally with the help of AI, like textures and materials in Substance? Yeah, I think that kind of workflow will be happening for sure in the future. Yeah, I definitely think that will be helping people a lot. I think it'll help give people more options, basically, like give them an array of options faster than they could humanly think of all of those options. So they may come up with a great color combination or, something else like that. You're like the weirdest cinephile ever. Seriously. What tickles your fancy? I'm the weirdest cinephile ever. Well, hey, hopefully that means I'll be a good director because I'll be unique. I thought I've shared what tickles my fancy. I love a great adventure. So my favorite films are still Jurassic Park, The Matrix, Interstellar, Back to the Future, Indiana Jones, Last Crusade, Aliens, Terminator 2. I love a great adventure. I love a good story. Adventures are my sweet spot because they are a bit. You can do everything in an adventure. That's what I'm getting to. You can have action, romance, horror. They can all be encompassed by an adventure. And that's where I'm most excited or most intrigued. The potential that lies inside of an adventure story is almost endless compared to something that's hardline genre, where it's horror, it has to be scary, right? Only scary, and it has to lead all up to that. Sci-fi is sci-fi can go into the adventure realm. Obviously, it can often be an adventure, and that's cool. I enjoy some good science fiction. Obviously, from what I listed, almost all of them are science fiction, actually. Yeah, so, but I love some good dramedies. I love some good comedies too. I mean, I like a little bit of every genre for the most part. I like a good documentary, but as far as what do we go to movies for? I love going to see a film that's like, this is why we go to the movies. Like, this is a grand adventure, or a really cool, interesting artistic film that's a little less maybe popular, but like The Artist. It's a silent film, black and white. I found that very fun and kind of touching, very different. I enjoyed that. What was it? What's his name right now? I want to say it's not Mark Foster, but it's the other artist other director. Brain fart, but what was it? Fight Club, classic. Can't think of the director right now for some stupid reason. Seven, another one of his films. It's great. Dark, super dark, obviously. So again, it's not something I'll throw on all the time because it's so dark and it's so disturbing almost that when it comes to Seven, that I'm not gonna be like, hey, let's watch it all the time. But David Fincher, thank you. Yes, Benjamin Button. I like Benjamin Button a lot. Some people hate it. I loved it. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it. It's thought-provoking, touching. So yeah, those are the kind of films that tickle my fancy, so to speak, to use your verbiage. I like those movies. Hello, Emmanuel. I like Lord of the Rings, Agent B95. I do like Lord of the Rings, yeah. It took me a while to appreciate them when I was younger, but I grew to really like them a lot, yeah. Emmanuel Macaron, hello. Okay, so what about adventure book movies? Count of Monte Cristo, Princess Bride, Man in the Iron Mask. Have you seen the Sandokan movies? I have seen. I love the Count of Monte Cristo, the book and the film, even though I know they are slightly different in many areas. I love the Count of Monte Cristo. I think that's a fantastic film. Princess Bride is a classic too. Yeah, for sure. I grew up with that. It's great. I love Monty Python, Search for the Holy Grail, The Holy Hand Grenade, Killer Bunny. It's great, classic stuff, man. Shaun of the Dead. You know, I love good shtick like comedies. I love the funny slapstick stuff. I really do enjoy that. Call me mature. I don't care. Whatever. I love a good comedy. Just Friends is one of my favorite comedies of all time. Just Friends, Ryan Reynolds, Amy Smart. If you haven't seen it, watch it. So good. I quote that all the time with certain friends of mine. so many good lines in that movie, and it's so true. It's actually a true story. Like, it's obviously embellished, but it's a true story of this guy who wrote it. Chris Brander. It's so great because all of us have been in the friend zone, or most of us have, who aren't models. Are you working while you chat? Comics Legend. Yeah, barely. Benjamin Button. Yeah. Last year was a great year for cinema, though. A lot of great smaller movies got released. True. Have I read My First Movie by Stephen Launerstein? No, I haven't. Well worth a read if you haven't. What you're discussing. Thanks. I will actually make a note of that right now. Just going to screenshot that. It's the fastest way to do this. Boop. All right. Thanks for the recommendation. Dark and Grim. We should be experts with all the live streams we have seen. Is Blade Runner 2049 good? I haven't watched it yet. Depends. Do you like the old one? If so, the new one is great. I love it. Directors. What are we doing here? Directors such as the Coen brothers, Ang Lee. Yeah. Yeah, Neil Jordan, yeah. Recall the making of their first films. Very cool. Yeah, that's good to hear. I haven't watched it neither. And Dark will do fine. Yeah, for those who want to see Blade Runner, I say watch it, man. Just don't even bother with reviews or whatever. Just go and watch it, see what you think for yourself. If I know in general, like A Quiet Place. I love the first A Quiet Place, and I can't wait to see the second one. I really want to see the second one. I love The Quiet Place. I do like good horror movies, but A Quiet Place is almost more of a thriller than a horror film, and than a classic horror film. But I like it better than a lot of classic horror films. But the classic horror film I do like, for instance, would be The Thing. I love John Carpenter's The Thing. I love the TV version of The Shining. I know it's unpopular, but the miniseries version, which Stephen King said himself he likes better than the Jack Nicholson version. I find the TV version, the miniseries, to be scarier and more exciting and interesting than the Jack Nicholson version. They're both fine. I think they're both scary, but I prefer the one with Rebecca De Mornay. I like that one a lot better than Jack Nicholson version. Plus, Shelley Duvall is just so weird. She's such a quirky, just a weird choice for that character. Well, Rebecca De Mornay is more just obviously classically beautiful, but just seems more mature, a little bit more. You can empathize with her expressions and her feelings more than Shelley Duvall. Just feels just so crazy and so out of her mind a lot of times with her fear expressions, where it just throws me off. I just feel like it's almost like a comedy. It's just her expressions are just too extreme. I don't know how else how to put it. It's not very gently, but it's the truth. Um, yeah, so I really prefer that version over the original Shining. Again, maybe not the most popular opinion, but if you haven't seen this miniseries version of The Shining, I highly recommend it. Comics legend, The Last Mission Impossible Fallout is fantastic. I agree. I love all the Mission Impossibles with the exception of two. Two's too John Wooified, in my opinion. Too cheesy, but it's still fun, but it's ridiculous compared to all the other ones. My favorite's got to be 1, 3, 5, and 6. And I got to meet the director of the last two. So that's Rogue Nation and Fallout. Christopher McQuarrie. He is awesome. Really nice guy. Really down to earth. Really practical. Thinks for himself. Meaning he's not just like a Hollywood celebrity clone, which is like most Hollywood celebrities. Which I find incredibly irritating. So that was really refreshing to hear that he actually thinks for himself and doesn't just, follow orders like everyone else. So yeah, so he was given a Q&A and also watched the only 3D screening of Mission Impossible in the U.S. here at IMAX headquarters here in I think it was like Culver City area. So I was lucky to get selected to attend, and I got to pick his brain for about 30-40 minutes after the film, like privately, just one-on-one. It was great. Super cool guy. Awesome. So I can't wait for his next Mission Impossible. I think he's doing the next two. And he wrote the new Top Gun. And I love the first Top Gun. It's classic. So I'm looking forward to all of his other films. He also made The Usual Suspects, another classic crime thriller whodunit. Scorsese, another director I like. I like The Departed a lot, personally. It's classic. Didn't care that much for The Irishman. A little too long. It was good, but too long. Could have been shorter. Comedians, I like Ricky Gervais a lot. I think his Golden Globe speech was epic. Was probably the most epic Golden Globe speech of all time. His last one. Because Hollywood deserved to hear every single bit of that, in my opinion. I'm not a conformist. And I don't really care to be lectured by celebrities. I don't really care what most celebrities say. So, I like Gervais. What is Comic Legends? Yes, I'm doing a posed model after watching Dan Bell's stream. I just got to do it. Yeah. Stephen King likes his TV versions better than Kubrick. Yikes. Well, have you seen it? That's the question. Am I D Knight? You have the most unpopular opinions ever. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Do you have any tips about some of the ZBrush tools you're using and what's going on in your head when you're thinking about sculpting? Old crone. Sorry, I'm not really verbalizing what I'm doing. I'm just sort of working. If you have any specific questions, let me know. I'll be happy to answer them. I just don't usually have a stream of consciousness of outputting what I'm doing. Maybe I should more. Sorry for those who are maybe looking for some tips and are bored of hearing my opinions on film. I mean, and if you think I have weird opinions, I mean, Spielberg's extremely successful, like probably the most successful director of our time, and I love most of his work, so I don't know if that's that weird. He's made a shit ton of money from his movies. He's probably the most successful director alive. Have I seen Ready or Not? Yes, I have seen Ready or Not, and that is a great movie. I love that movie. I think that is, like, it seems like it's almost like it was competition for Knives Out, but I haven't seen Knives Out yet. But it feels like it was sort of in the same space. But obviously, I think Knives Out was a bit more quirky and funny, from what I understood. And Ready or Not's much darker, I think, and I liked it. I enjoyed it for what it was. I also like Crawl. I know a lot of people haven't seen that, or maybe some people didn't care for it, but for what it was, I thought it was a fun adventure, horror, animal thriller. It was definitely a bit ridiculous, but it was still fun. It was still a fun, like, quick, like, piece of entertainment, you know, about alligators coming in after people who were, I mean, again, it's just like popcorn fun. I'm not saying this was like an amazing movie, but it was a fun movie. It was a fun, if you want to put on something mindless and entertaining, for me, that was pretty like mindless and entertaining and well made. I thought that was pretty good. That was a pretty good action horror thriller. What else? So, Old Crone, let me know if you have any specific questions. Lots of great. The original Blade Runner, I have felt was a great movie. It was a great shame Rutger Hauer passed last year. He was great fun, yeah. Lots of greats in my last statement. I need more coffee to wake up. Lots of greats. Oh, you mean what? Okay, I'm a little confused there. Wake up, the language center of my brain. Departed was great. Ever seen the Korean original though? That one is awesome. No, I haven't actually. I didn't know there was an original Korean one. I guess I didn't do my homework. I didn't really look up all the behind the scenes, but like I didn't look all the story behind the Departed really. I didn't know it was like a remake of a Korean one. That's great. Very lucky. I've noticed that there are less 3D movies in theaters. I remember when they used to have 2D and 3D versions for every movie. Yeah, I know. I hate it. I don't care for 3D. The funny thing is, it's an interesting story. When I went to see that 3D version of Fallout with the director, they have two projectors, and all of us are wearing the glasses, right? And that polarized light, so different light goes into each eye, created the 3D effect. One of the bulbs in one of the projectors blew out during our screening, so everybody's right eye just went black. And the director said he thought initially, he was like, "Did I just have a stroke? Did I just like did some of my my left occipital lobe just like cut out because everything went black on the one eye?" And then all of us, we all felt like, what the heck just happened? And then we took off the glasses and we're like, okay, now we can watch it in 2D because one of the projectors burned out. But it was fine because, like, for what we saw in 3D, it was, again, it's like what usually happens in 3D movies. It wasn't that impressive. It was kind of annoying. It was fine. It just wasn't like, wow, this is incredible. I've only seen a few 3D movies, and I've seen a bunch, but I've only seen a few that have ever really made me say, wow, these were awesome in 3D. Like, they did a really good job. Going to sound like a fanboy, but Jurassic Park has an amazing 3D conversion. I saw that in theaters, and then I bought the 3D Blu-ray because I still have an old 3D flat screen TV, which was awesome. So they did a good job in that 3D conversion. How to Train Your Dragon, the original in 3D, amazing, fantastic. And I think part of that is because in the virtual camera, you can have two cameras that are identical that will give you clear replication from two different angles perfectly. While in the real world, if you have two different cameras, both of those lenses have glass that was polished differently. So you'll never have the exact same spherical deformation on any two lenses ever. So that always gives you two mixed, weird versions of what you're looking at into your eyes, and then in turn it can make a lot of people sick or give them a headache. So that's why a lot of, I think, 3D films also cause that problem for some people, and also, or just come off weird, because it's really hard to get 3D to be great unless it's virtual. I think Avatar in 3D would probably do well. I don't think I ever saw it in 3D, but I'm sure that anything that's done with two digital cameras will always look better in 3D than anything that's filmed with real cameras in 3D for the most part. What else? Haven't seen Knives Out 2. Sadly, didn't catch it cinemas. Right now, won't watch it. Crawl is completely unrealistic. We don't have basements in Florida. Hilarious. Walking Dead is really getting back on their feet. Can't wait to see Walking Dead the movie. They're going to make a Walking Dead movie? I checked out after they axed Glenn. Once Glenn went, I was like, dude, that's... Even then I was getting bored because it just felt like Negan is just like the governor? Or whatever the other guy's name was. It just felt like it's just on repeat. It got way too repetitive for me. And then when they so brutally kill off a character you love in such a cruel way in front of his wife, I was like, God, that's spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen something like 4 years old now or 3 years old. Nah. I got sick of Walking Dead. It's too repetitive. It's too much of the same. I don't know. If you're getting back on their feet, good, but I checked out and done. done with Walking Dead. The Departed original was a Chinese movie, Internal Affairs. Oh, see, now that sounds more familiar. I think I did hear about that. Internal Affairs. All right, I'll have to look that up. Thank you. Yeah, sadly, most movies don't use real 3D, mostly only conversion, and also many directors don't use it as a narrative tool. Correct. It's hard to really use the 3D as a narrative tool that much. I mean, unless you're having things like coming at the camera a lot, but that gets really annoying. Things jumping out at you, or depth is more interesting, I think, than things being flung at you, because it just feels like that's the 3D equivalent of like a jump scare in a horror movie. It works once, but over and over again, it just gets stupid. It gets repetitive. Yeah, sadly, most movies. Yeah. So, what's your input in VR for movies and the evolution of framing? And The Hobbit didn't look too shabby for being captured on 2 Red Dragon cams rigs, even though the high frame rate was always yeah, the high frame rate thing is always weird. I think stick with 23.9 frames per second is always the best, or 24. It's fine. I think that's where we've so adapted to that anything more just seems weird. So I got bored of Walking Dead after series 3. I commend your mental stamina if you've made it to Glenn's death. Yeah, I was ready to be done even then, but then that really was just like the nail in the coffin for me. I was like, forget this, I'm done. Yeah. So yeah. Interesting side note on MD Knight's point about directors not using it as a narrative tool. I think what should be used as more of a narrative tool, what should be utilized more, and I would love to do in the future, and I already have some ideas specifically for certain scenes in some stories I've been working on. Bullet time. Using bullet time in a way where you can slow time down, but you're moving the camera in a way that essentially it was cool in The Matrix because we'd never seen it before except in that one Gap commercial, and there was some music video that did it before too, but otherwise those were like the only 2 instances before The Matrix that used bullet time, where you either stop time, rotate, and then keep going forward, or slow time down and move the camera simultaneously. Both are awesome, both highly underutilized, and even in The Matrix they barely really used it. It was more of just like a cool technical feat, but it didn't really communicate anything to the story that you couldn't have told from just a single pan or just follow along, but it was awesome. I still think they're phenomenal shots. But I think that if you have the camera following a character and then you slow time down and move the camera, and there's something that they have either in their left hand or behind the opposite side of the camera's view, and you were able to rotate and reveal said MacGuffin in the moment when they're about to engage in combat or go to a certain place or whatever, you basically, you're showing the audience something that is crucial to what they're doing that you don't expect them to be able to achieve unless you were to know they had that thing, which is on the other side of the camera's view. At least then you're using the camera and that technique in a way that actually communicates effectively, and you use that technique in a way that it really pushes the story forward in some way, where otherwise you'd have to jump cut to the other side or something. And that's cheaper and easier, but if you do it in a really artistic way, and you put the camera and you have lighting really well done, and you have it reflecting and flaring into the lens correctly, and the right kind of music, I mean, you can really do an awesome scene or two with bullet time. And I feel that it's not used ever anymore, anywhere practically. I know because it's very expensive to do and it's a huge setup. But I don't know. I'm a big fan of bullet time. I think that it should be done more, and I have some ideas for how it could be used that would be really impacting, I think, for people to see. So that's something that I'm excited for eventually messing with. And then what was the other thing that someone said? Especially if you have a real bullet time setup, you could just offset frames to convert to 3D. There's a bunch of Korean remakes, easy to miss. Yeah, there's a lot of Korean movies that are being remade, or that have been remade. It feels like Dread, the one with Carl Urban, was like a ripoff of The Raid, right? You guys seen The Raid? That was a great action movie. Although that's not Korean, actually. That's Indonesian, I think, right? Different country altogether. Is there another question I missed? I feel like there was something else that someone asked. Vasquez is hilarious. The whole crawl's completely unrealistic. We don't have basements in Florida. That's great. Oh, okay. So yeah, Doom. Sorry, Doom PD0 was asking, "What's your input on VR for movies and the evolution of framing?" So I've only seen a couple clips of a live-action movie filmed with a spherical camera setup, where the cameraman's running around all the actors, and then they have to like digitally remove him and the rig, and it's a really, I think it's uncharted territory, and I'm not sure that filmmaking can really, traditional storytelling and filmmaking can work in VR like that, because you're always giving the freedom of movement to the audience, and it's usually pretty hard to do that as a shared experience. Also, it feels like it's a single player movie. You know what I mean? Like, you have to put on the helmet and you can enjoy it, but it's like you can't go to the virtual movie theater with your friends and all be, you know what I mean? Like, because you all have the freedom to look wherever you want. So, I mean, you could kind of say like you're all in the same scenario as if you were really there, like in the middle of something. So then but then that's the thing, you could miss that maximum impact where if you're not all looking over there when the explosion goes off, or the person is getting attacked or chased, or they're pulling out the gun or whatever, that moment of aha, that moment of oh my god, if you're not looking that way, you completely miss a major beat in a story, where then if you're like over there looking at that direction and then someone's like, oh dude, look over here, by the time you look over, or they respond in some audible way and then you cue into what they're saying, you could totally miss that impact, and it just loses all, emotional value to that story. So I think that there's a lot to be said for what can and can't be done in VR. That's not, of course, regardless of just motion sickness for some people who just can't handle it, and so on and so forth. Again, it comes down to other technical things too, like the quality of the lenses and how they, the refresh rate and the resolution and all of that. Yeah, there's just a lot. So yeah, I think VR. I've seen some other cool like digital VR shorts. They're fun, they're cute, but I really don't see much of a storytelling directly, unless a VR game makes sense, because you're still guiding the player. The player has to go through certain linear choices, so that guides the story and the player through those experiences. But still, I think, are they really taking advantage of the fact? I mean, you feel like you're there, but are they taking advantage of the fact that you can look in every direction? I don't know, because that's really hard to do. Like, how do you cue? You have to do 3D sound. You have to do a lot of other things to really cue in people to know what to look for at what point. It's really challenging. So I don't know that it can really effectively be done right now. I'm sure someone will crack it, but I just feel like there's not one great example yet that I know of that's like, this is the VR movie that you need to experience. I think it makes more sense for games right now. I think the only two cases I've seen it being used narratively, stereoscopically, in a shot in Brave, where the daughter tries to reach her mother's hand, and you can clearly understand the depth and distance between the hands. I haven't seen all of Brave, actually. I need to. I believe Rogue One, there's a shot of one of the Star Destroyers in front of the Death Star, and it just looked so menacing. All right. Dredd was a character from 2000 AD, the comic book published in the UK. First came out in February 1977. And I don't get what that emoji is supposed to communicate. It seems like an ogre with a look of disgust or unhappiness. I don't know. But Dark and Grime, yeah. Have you seen the Dredd movie, the one with Carl Urban? It feels like it's a kind of a ripoff of, at least that sequence when he's going up the main atrium of the apartment complex. It just feels a lot like The Raid, which has some of the most badass martial arts fights ever so far put to film. I love a good martial arts action movie, and I feel like there's not many being made now. John Wick. I love the John Wick movies. You want to talk about pure action? Yeah, The Raid is amazing. John Wick is badass. I love all the John Wicks, but especially the third. I'm a big fan of dogs. I've had ideas for some stories about dogs being used in a counter-terrorist unit for a while, and to see them just touch on that species. I did some ride-alongs with cops. I did, for about a couple months, I did ride-alongs with the police force in Lancaster, back in my hometown where I grew up. Downtown, inner city, did a whole bunch of, I did a ride-along when their prostitution sting. They did, I rode along specifically with the canine unit to learn about how they train the dogs and how they only use, Czech and German or Russian commands. I think it was mostly Czech. and Russian, so that most people can't give commands to the dogs. But even then, the dogs are known to be trained only with their partner. So I'm a big fan of how dogs and police force and whatnot are trained, and then combining that with some new future tech and whatnot is pretty awesome. So to see John Wick touching on that was really exciting for me and encouraging, because it shows that there's interest in that, and I know that what I'm working on is going to be pretty impacting, I think. Don't want to say too much, but yeah, I think John Wick's action films are great. Fun. First John Wick didn't really catch me somehow. Watched it at home though, and don't know what it was. Yeah, the first John Wick is okay. I really feel like they got better with each one, for sure. I'd say watch the second one, but really watch the third. If you really don't want to watch any other one, just watch the third one. It's great. I think it's fantastic. Again, for an action movie, it's not love and war. War and peace. It's just a great action movie. For the life of me, I just could not get used to being in VR for a long period of time. I get dizzy and start sweating. My heart races. I tried to build up my tolerance, but it still happened. Yeah. VR is hard for some people, so I just think it's gonna be a niche market for maybe forever. Dread and The Raid came out at relatively the same time. I remember that being a good year for action movies. Yeah. How can you sign up for a ride-along? Sign up, like it's like, hey, sign up for our ride-alongs. I just did a cold call, man. Like I've done a lot of things in my life. Just walk up to the police station and say who you are, or what you're interested in, why you want to do a ride-along. You sign a waiver to sign your life away, so that if you get killed in line of duty, you get shot or stabbed by someone they're chasing or whatever, you're not going to be able to. You or your family won't sue them for death or any kind of liability. Any of that. You write off your whole legal ability to sue them for anything, and then you're good to go and risk your life with them. That's what I did, so it was pretty cool. We serviced some warrants. They had me in the very back of the line of like 5 or 6 other cops in their canine unit, all go in to like raid a guy's place and service his warrant and haul him out. It was crazy, man. I saw some nuts stuff. It was pretty awesome. Definitely good real world experience for sure. And this was after I worked in the ER for like 2 years, so I saw the life-saving side of things, and I went to see the other side of it. Because I worked with cops all the time in the ER. They come in and bring in criminals we have to work on, but it's another thing to be able to see them going after criminals and setting up sting operations. It was pretty entertaining. Pretty exciting stuff, I gotta say. I can't lie. So that's what you do to sign up for one, essentially. Maybe give them another chance. And the fight scenes in Upgrade were sick. Yeah, dude, Upgrade is another one of my favorite movies. I forgot about that. Dude, Upgrade is awesome. I love Upgrade. It's like a modern-day RoboCop, basically. It's phenomenal. Upgrade's great. In every way, I think. It's really good. Could be better. I mean, they could have even made it better, but I think it was good. It was really good for what it was. Really, really good. I think it's between just great action, entertainment, or something more artsy-fartsy like The Lighthouse. My D Knight. You're saying you can distinguish between just great action, entertainment, or something artsy-fartsy like The Lighthouse, or you're saying you can't? Obviously, something like The Lighthouse, it doesn't really... I haven't seen it. I've heard about it. It doesn't really interest me that much. I mean, I just like good entertainment, I guess, right? Like a great story. A good book, right? So, everyone likes different books, right? Oh, you can? Okay. You like The Lighthouse, Vasquez? I haven't seen it. I've heard it. I don't know. I've heard some people love it. I've heard some people say it's boring. It just doesn't really grab me. But is it worth it? I don't know. Is it worth watching? It just seems weird and not that engaging. Not that exciting. Yep, I've seen it, and that was all styled on Mega City 1 from Judge Dredd storyline, where nearly all humanity was clustered in Mega Cities post-radioactive Holocaust. The Mega Cities were radiation-free zones. Got it. Lighthouse was weird, but you loved it. Oh, okay. All right, cool. It depends on what you like. Matrix thing is great. Everyone sees that. It's hilarious. Yeah, I might have to check it out. So like, there's a weird film that some people liked and didn't like. I liked parts of it. I liked some artistic elements of it, but I didn't like it overall. I'm not like walking away being like I have to buy that. Was Annihilation with Natalie Portman. It had some cool elements to it, I think, but it still didn't. Overall, I was like, it was still kind of too. I don't know. It was too weird. There's too many loopholes, too many things that just didn't make sense in there either that they didn't really answer. But I really did enjoy The Arrival, Denis Villeneuve's other film that I thought was great, aside from his Blade Runner. If you guys haven't seen Arrival, or The Arrival, with, what's her name? Can't think of her name right. Amy Adams and the dude from... I always think of him because I first saw him in 28 Weeks Later, the sequel to 28 Days Later, which are both great in my opinion. I love 28 Days Later especially. It's one of the best zombie horror action adventure thrillers whatever ever. But Jeremy Renner, there we go. Jeremy Renner and Amy Adams are in Arrival, and I thought that was great. A great movie. Very emotional, very interesting, very thought-provoking. I loved it. I thought it was great. And it makes you think about birth, life, death, the biggest aspects of humanity in some ways, you know. Would you have a child if you know something's going to happen to them? You know, would you love even though you're going to lose in some way in the end? We all, that's the thing though. It's like that's the human aspect of life, right? We all love and lose because people we love die, right? They pass away. It's a very big, weighty idea, but that film deals a lot with that aspect in the end. To not spoil anything, but it's just a very powerful, very deep thought process that they touch on there, and I thought that was great. It was cool to see that encapsulated in a story. Death brings weight to life, exactly. Yep. Pow Poo asking about my Matrix poster. Tell us on every stream. The poster is one of 300 ever made. You can find them rarely, occasionally on eBay. They usually are between like $600 to $1,000 because they're rare. Especially this kind. It says "Free Your Mind" up at the top. There's another one that just has the big date for Matrix Reloaded. I didn't want just the big date. I just wanted this with says "Free Your Mind" at the top. Loved it. I added in all the LEDs that are raining down to create the back of the poster. I did that so it looks like the code. It just aligned them with the code, and it's like a lenticular, so it's hard to see on the camera, but it's like highly reflective. So even when there's daylight, just if you walk past it, you'll see like these very beautiful lenticular reflections on it. So you can find some still on eBay now and then, but they're not cheap. I think I paid a lot for this too when I got it years ago. But it's awesome. I love it. So, and the LED lights are really simple. You can buy them, like the rain lights, you can buy them on Amazon for like $15 or something, cheap. And then I just affixed them to the back and arrayed them. I had to like go back and forth and front and back and just align them. And then, just bought a couple pairs of them and just affixed them to the back, and there you go. Lighthouse is more like a study piece. It's really great acting, great cinematography. But the story isn't given to the audience easily. You have to earn the narrative and what they tried to do with it by your own. Okay. I just think as a filmmaker or like an artist in general, you should be exposed to all styles. Know what's good and bad about them, and be cognizant about the techniques and how to apply them. No, I agree. And I watch everything, dude. I'm just telling you what I like. I mean, I watch a lot. But there's a lot of stuff I don't like. So, But yeah, of course, I watch nearly almost everything. I mean, if I watch a trailer and I just know I'm not going to like something, I'm not going to waste my time. Because I do know what I do like, and if there's certain things I know I won't like, I mean, there's been a few even where I'm like, all right, so a good example, something I knew I wouldn't care for. I heard some bad reviews, and I had some good ones too, but I usually go a lot by reviews. And there's some reviewers I trust, but I typically like to watch something on my own. But if I hear enough of one thing from people I trust, I'll lean away from watching it. Midsummer. Dumb horror movie. Dumb. I don't care what people say. It was dumb. Straight up unintelligent, poorly done. Just I mean, competently from a basic technical standpoint, obviously. Like, that's like knowing how to read, again. It's like fundamental. But as a story and as characters that you should care about, just no thanks. Midsummer was not great in my opinion at all. It was just no. I didn't walk away from that saying, "Wow, this is an amazing piece of art." I just didn't like it. Not my taste. But you like crawlers, sure. What? Crawl. I think you mean crawl, right? With the alligators. I said that was dumb fun, right? But Midsummer was just kind of I found it just repugnant. A lot of it was just not. I didn't find it fun. If I want to go for like a buddy horror movie like that, didn't get the ending for Midsummer. Yeah, it just doesn't. There's no payoff. That's the thing. It just doesn't really give you anything for the time you invest in it. If you want to see a good like group horror film, meaning that there's a group of people that go in and then shit happens. What was that other movie I was just thinking of and now I lost it in my head? What was it? Shoot. Total brain fart. I have a senior moment. Okay, yeah, The Relic. Is that what it's called? The Relic? Yeah, The Relic. Oh, no, not The Relic. Sorry, The Relic's great, but it's a totally different one. That's an action horror movie. It's called The Ritual. There we go. The Ritual is similar to, in certain aspects, to Midsummer in very basic ways, in that you have a group of people going in, shit goes bad, it goes south, and then all kind of hell breaks loose. I thought the creature in The Ritual was awesome, too. Very scary, creepy, weird. That was good. Obviously, it's a different type of horror movie than Midsummer. But Midsummer it was overly sexualized, too, in a way, like, I don't want to go to a horror movie and see porn. Like, that's not what I go to a horror movie for. I know some people like to whole mix nudity with horror. I don't know, that's always been a thing in horror movies. I don't go to horror movies to see people naked. Like, that's not my attraction to the horror movie, and it's not, like, some great payoff for me either. If you want to go see porn, go watch porn. I want to go see a horror movie to get scared and have an intense experience. Nudity and sexual, like watching people have sex, that's not why I want to go to a horror movie. And it's just weird seeing that with a group of people in a theater. It just feels scummy. I don't know. It just feels like if you were to go to, like, I don't know, like if you're someone who's like, it makes you feel like the kind of weird person that goes to peep shows or something. Like, you'd pay to walk into a theater to watch back in the day. Like, that's just, my brain is not in that space at all. Like, that's not my taste. If that's your thing, that's your thing. But I think it's kind of gross and weird. So not my thing. So yeah, the whole thing with Midsummer and that level of sexuality in it just was repulsive to me, because I didn't go into that wanting to see that. That's not what I was interested in. I want to see like a thrilling horror story. And so I heard there was some of that in there. Didn't realize to what extent. Didn't care for it. So, I mean, it's just weird. It's like mixing porn with horror, and it's just not. Again, did it service anything? Not really. No, it just felt like a weird cult. Like, it felt like we were getting this voyeuristic view into like David Koresh's crazy cult that all these people are effed up. You know, it was just not for me. So no thanks. Yeah, what else you guys say? Honestly, agree. I think recent filmmakers confuse slow burn horror with boring. Yep, this is true. I think that's a very accurate assessment. Like The Ritual? Good. Cool. By the way, have you seen Apostle? No, I haven't seen The Apostle. That sounds familiar, though. It's not the one with older gentleman, what's his name? Super famous older actor. You're not talking about The Apostle? Is that with Robert Duvall? That's an old movie. I don't think that's what you're referring to, is it? Dark and grim. I'd really love to see directors creating more good story-based movies like Rear Window. Rear Window's a classic, man. Oh my god, I love Rear Window. I'm a huge fan of... Oh my god, I mean, come on. It's like... Rear Window is one of... it's just one of the greatest thriller horror films ever, I guess, in some ways. I mean, it's not really horror. It's just thriller, right? Yeah, like that's one of my favorite films of him. Wow, brain fart. Director, Rear Window, Rope. What else? Everything. Psycho. Wow, total brain fart again. The most famous director, one of our most famous directors of all time. Dude. My brain wants to say Anthony Hopkins, but that's completely wrong because I know it's the actor. Hitchcock. There we go. Jeez. Brain fart. Yeah, Hitchcock. Amazing, amazing director. Although I didn't really care for the birds. Not really my thing. Apostle Gareth Evans. All right, I'll have to check it out. No, I haven't. It's not clicking right now. I'll probably see the trailer. Would really love to see directors creating more good story-based movies like Rear Window and North by Northwest, and a lot less 3D films where 3D is used to cover their lack of storytelling ability. Yeah. Alfred Hitchcock. Yeah, everyone's like, Hitchcock! Yeah, thanks, guys. Sorry. That's embarrassing. But, yeah. I love that actor. You know, Jimmy Stewart in Rear Window, and, of course, It's a Wonderful Life. He was great. I think Jimmy Stewart was an icon, a true classic American actor. I love It's a Wonderful Life too. I watch it every year. There was something that happened where when I was younger, there were some years where I went for a bunch of years where I didn't watch It's a Wonderful Life. Probably I think I was a teenager, pretty sure. And then I watched it again as a young adult, meaning probably like 23, 24, 26, I don't know, somewhere around there. And it hit me like a sledgehammer with certain things because you're just obviously mature and you appreciate life more and you understand more of the stressors that are on adults. And man, that hit me like a ton of bricks, especially certain moments like when he's getting slapped around by the druggist in the beginning. Oh, it's powerful, and just that whole empathy that he had for the druggist, and just that kind of emotional maturity that the child had. It's uncommon, I think, especially today, but in general, it's uncommon for certain young children, to have that level of understanding and compassion. And I thought it's just so many brilliant elements to that movie. I know some people don't like it, but I love It's a Wonderful Life. I think it's such a great film that focuses on family and appreciating life and one of the meanings of Christmas. And yeah, it's great. I love It's a Wonderful Life. If you look in the right places, you still get that. Yeah, it just feels like it's less. I just feel like there's a lot less in general. Just a lot less good films. Anyone else watch the Hitchcock show? Good stuff. If you don't want to sleep, kind of like look at the original Tales from the Crypt. Yeah, dude, the original Tales from the Crypt were great. I started rewatching that a while back, and then I forgot to keep going with it. Let it go, got busy, but Tales from the Crypt was awesome. As well as X-Files, the original first 6 seasons of the X-Files. Huge fan of the X-Files. And the Twilight Zone. I mean, come on. I've slowly been going through that on and off. And the original the original series of the Twilight Zone were phenomenal. Really, really good. It's intelligent. Again, it's like intelligent storytelling. And often low budget, but just smart. Just intelligent and fun. And it's always the what if. What if this, what would happen then? You know, what if you took a person and deprived them of this sense, this sensory perception, or socialization, or what, just random things. What if you put this person in this scenario? What would they do? How would they react? All that kind of intrigue. I find that fascinating. I love that about the original Twilight Zone. I just love interesting scenarios. So I know I talked a lot, and I talk a lot with my hands, and I have to look up at the chat, so I can't sculpt and talk at the same time. So sorry this didn't really move along tremendously, but at least we got the other hand grabbing his. I'm going to have to fix some things in here. I think I'm going to have to adjust her palm a little bit, maybe raise it. I don't know. It's working, but the intersection right here is a little too strong. It's going to have to be some sort of... it looks wrong. I'm going to have to make some adjustments here a little bit, but we're getting there. I'll probably have to raise it a little bit. Just raise her all together. So maybe let's try this quick. Just go up a little bit. And then I love how expressive hands are like this, though. There's just so it's so. I love that dynamism of bodies interlocking like that. It's so cool. Like just this imagery alone is always powerful. I might do like even like a little, I don't know, camera panning or something of this 3D model when it's all done, and just kind of do some cool storytelling from the hands and pull back to show the whole thing at the end. It's just powerful when you can see emotion being expressed through appendages outside of the face. Always interesting. What else am I missing here? Yeah, there aren't the big ones anymore. When Hitchcock put out a movie, it was like a blockbuster in terms of audience attraction. Today, only things like MCU are doing that. Yeah, I'm really sick of superhero films. I'm really sick of them. I'm not a fan anymore. I mean, like, I saw Endgame just to kind of wrap it up, so I'd have some sort of conclusion in my head. But it was good for what it was. It was pretty good. And honestly, it was pretty good, enjoyable. But I would love, again, it's like we're all adults here. I know those are kind of more for the family-friendly thing, but it's like I would love to see more rated R. Kind of just go for the gusto, just full on, not for like grotesque elements, but just to really get some of the more satisfying elements of when there's violence. Or, you know, you want to see justice given to Thanos. You really kind of I wanted him to suffer more than how they ended it. Personally, I thought that I know he got to see his defeat, whatever. That was an emotional defeat, but you still wanted to you just want to see the shit beat out of him. Like, you just want to see him suffer a bit, and he just sort of sat down and poof went away. I was like, could have been better. It was fun, but I'm kind of done with superhero movies. That's I want to see more. I don't know. Different movies. I want to see movies I've never seen before. I want to make movies that people have never seen before. I'm tired of a lot of the genre stuff, and I'm just sick of what Disney's doing too, where they're just kind of grabbing all this stuff and then regurgitating predictable crap. It's getting old. I've never been a big superhero guy in general, so it just doesn't, you know. Iron Man was great. I love the first 3 Iron Men in general. And the Captain America films were pretty good too. Those were really fun. But that's about it for me. And then Endgame, you know, Avengers and Endgame. Oh yeah, and Spider-Man. I enjoyed. I mean, again, how many Spider-Mans are we gonna have? You know, it's like it gets old. But I think Homecoming was fun. You know, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 2, awesome, classic. But like, those feel like the epitomes. You know, like the Dark Knight trilogy for Batman, fantastic, awesome, done. Anyway. Anyone else watch it? U.S. people even ranting over well-deserved Oscars for Parasite. Yeah, I saw Parasite. Didn't really care for it that much. I wouldn't watch it again, put it that way. I think 1917 should have won. As I've said before on this stream. I think 1917 pushed the medium forward a little bit more than Parasite. Not that I have anything really against Parasite. I just wasn't that impressed by it. I saw it. Everyone made it sound like it was like the second coming, and it was just okay. I mean, it's not a kind of film that you want to watch again. It's not inspiring, really, or victorious. It's depressing, honestly, and like dark, in a not a good way. I like dark films when they have a cool message or something powerful, but for me, Parasite was just not deserving of. I think the Oscars should go. The Oscars are politically motivated. That's why. It should have been to the film that pushed the medium forward in every area, of course, including baseline, again, fundamentals like reading, a good message, a good story, good basic writing, right? A good story is a foundation, and everything else on top of that elevates it. And I feel like the story of Parasite is not, where's the redeeming quality there? You know what I mean? Like, what is it really? It just felt kind of predictable and just dark and sad. I mean, there were certain parts where you're like, oh wow, I didn't see that coming. But again, Parasite, we kind of expected something else, and then it turned out to be something else instead. I liked his host. I like the movie he did called The Host, and Okja. Okja was awesome. I love that. Netflix. If you haven't seen Okja, watch it. Phenomenal. Both of those, I think, were more entertaining to me than Parasite overall. And 1917, I think, should have won the Oscar for Best Picture. But it's all about what is politically motivated. What's you know, what is Hollywood most excited about at the time, and that's where the Oscar goes. Doesn't have to do with the quality of the content as much as, or how it pushes the medium forward, as it does about, you know, what is being motivated and what do they want to push forward. Yeah, I wasn't that impressed with Parasite. There's nothing new under the sun. You can't make movies no one has seen before. Just interpret what is. Yeah. I mean, I know that, dude. There's no such thing as original. There's never any fully original anything. Everything's based upon something else. But I'm just saying I want to go and bend genres in ways that people have at least not done for a long time. I mean, I'm sure there's always going to be someone who does something better too. I know that. I know all the tropes and cliches and all that stuff. There's nothing new under the sun. That's King Solomon said that back in the Old Testament. That's where that first came from, and it's true. I know that phrase all too well. But what I'm saying is I want to create things that are much different than what we've been getting and of higher quality. That's the aspiration. I had the luck to work on as a projectionist in a small art house theater on the side, so I got to see a lot without having to go through all the other ones. Cool. Endgame was my kid brother's first film credit that wasn't a box office flop, and the ones that were flops were far more enjoyable movies. Wow, look at that. That's kind of cool. It's very cool. How do you think best animation should be judged? 1917 didn't care much for, besides the cinematography, besides assuming to tell the story in real time. It was just a basic heroic war movie. That's taste, I guess. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is taste, you know. Again, but I'm just saying again, for me, Parasite versus 1917, I found 1917 far more emotionally engaging, exciting. Obviously, the cinematography is great because it all looks like one giant take. And I really cared about the characters. I cared that there was death and suffering, you know, and that there's tragedy that happens. That moved me a lot. And I like good war movies. And I don't like all of them, but I like good ones. And Parasite, I watched 1917. This is the point for me. What out of the options that we had for Best Picture that year, I'll rewatch 1917 multiple times. I don't ever care to see Parasite again. I mean, maybe if someone has it, if I'm at a friend's house and they have it on and they're like, "We want to watch Parasite," all right, I'm not going to be excited about it. I saw it once. I'm good, you know. So there's a rewatchability to film that I think is important. And again, you're talking about a product. You're talking about something that people want to consume. Do you think people want to run out and buy Parasite on Blu-ray? Not really. Think people want to run out and buy 1917 on Blu-ray? Hell yeah. There's a big difference in marketability there for sure. Watch Parasite 3 times in theaters. Well, I mean, if it wasn't for all the hype surrounding it, would you have? I don't know. I just, it's taste. Yeah, it's personal taste. I don't really, you know. I liked his other films, and they all have the same actors, a lot of the same actors. I like a lot of his other films, a lot more than Parasite. Like I said, Okja, The Host. I feel like there's another one I'm missing that he made that was good. Anyway, I like him as a director. I like his taste, his style in general. I mean, Parasite's competently well done. It's a well-made film, but it just didn't have many redeeming factors for me. You know, it didn't inspire me. It didn't move me in a good way. It just was kind of depressing. And it was interesting. There was definitely funny moments too. I mean, I appreciate the elements that were good about it. I just, you know, I just wasn't like, wow, this is an amazing film. I was like, it's okay. I mean, it's fine. It's like Joker. Everyone was hyping about Joker too. And again, I walked out feeling depressed. I walked out feeling really, you know, hate agenda-driven content and not based on merit. Yeah, exactly. And that's why it won. It's you know, a lot of that, the politics of Hollywood pushing their side. It's not an unbiased system at all. I mean, for sure. Ricky Gervais' speech was refreshing. Yeah, I love Ricky Gervais' speech. Yeah, I think he was point blank right on. What isn't agenda driven? Well, I think there are for sure films that are made purely for classic entertainment value without much agenda behind them. You know, I mean, again, I'll go back to original Spielberg films. What agenda is there other than family and adventure and a good story? Stuff that I think everyone can get behind, right? Rather than trying to do the whole rich versus poor, the one percenters portraying rich people as bad people always, which is bullshit because I know a lot of wealthy people who are good people. Money doesn't immediately make someone bad or good. Everybody wants money anyway. Like, if you don't, you're just lying because money makes life easier. Everyone wants to work and earn good money. No one doesn't want that. So people who want to portray the rich as evil are just idiots because there's a lot of good people who are very wealthy who are doing a lot of good in the world. And if anyone's preaching that, it's usually the celebrities who are rich themselves. So talk about ultra hypocrisy. You know, people are idiots if they really buy into what celebrities teach or preach, because they're some of the biggest hypocrites out there. We get it. You don't like depressing movies. 1917 is history, man. I mean, it's obviously geared from the British perspective, but it's history. I don't see much agenda there other than it's an adventure story during the war. Good guys, bad guys. It's a good thing we defeated Germany then. Otherwise, you know, Nazis rule. Nice, Nick. What about Schindler's List? I love Schindler's List, but again, I won't watch it a lot. It's very sad. But I love Schindler's List. It's a beautiful, well-made film with a great message, and it helped create the Shoah Foundation. Awesome. Back to the Future. I've seen clips from The Color Purple. I haven't seen all The Color Purple, actually. It's one Spielberg film I need to go back and watch, because I always forget that that's out there. I need to go back and watch it. Yeah, Back to the Future's classic, not agenda-driven. It's just a great adventure movie. Right, but I mean, the Germans were the ones that were the problem, and that eventually led to Nazism. Anyway. What's funny is like my sister came over one time years ago when I was in another state. And she saw my DVD and Blu-ray collection, and she was like, "Man, you like a lot of dark films." I do like a lot of dark films, or films that could be even considered somewhat depressing. But again, it's all personal taste, right? Certain things you like, certain things you don't. I love The Impossible. That's a great movie, true story about a doctor and her family who miraculously, by the skin of their teeth, survive the tsunami of, I think it was 2012? I think it was 2012. Phenomenal film by J.A. Bayona. Loved it. Bought it. But yeah, I like some dark, moving stories, but just not too extreme. Alright, guys. Well, I think we're about at time. Definitely past it, actually. And we've got the hands posed together, which is awesome. So I think we're going to leave it here for now, and we'll get to work on the rest of this goodness later. But it's coming together. Going to be doing the hair next, I think, and I'll repose the other arm and get some cloth sculpture going, get some more flow and billowing in there. And then get back to Cupid and fix the wings, take care of a lot of that, and I need to delete his other arm. quick save. That's good. I will for sure. I'm gonna put together a teaser trailer first. Actually, it's the goal. And now with all the Quixel assets available and all that being free too, I already have it all done up here. I'm just gonna. It's trailer. The teaser's very teaser-like in the way that I miss old teasers. So it's very minimalistic, very simple, just music and certain visuals. So I'm gonna put that together soon, and try to get that out there in the next month or two. I think it's the goal, and hopefully, the film with music and everything should be done toward the end of the year. Should be out by before holiday. I'm assuming. I kind of want to time it to be maybe like the fall, going toward holiday season, so it kind of preempts the PS5 release. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. And just gonna save this over the last one. Yeah, and man, got a good number of people in here. It's 100 some, and it's 10:44 p.m. Pacific. Thanks for the stream. Enjoy the conversation. The sculpt was enjoyable start too. Thanks. Yeah, guys. Sorry if my opinions are unpopular with some, but hey, we're all entitled to our own. Take care. Have fun. Be well. Don't get sick. And I'll talk to you guys later.